All right.
Hi, guys.
Hello, everyone.
How are y'all doing?
Mob Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
A Trash Out God with the Twitch Prime sub for the 5th month in a row. Thank you so much, bro.
Yes, because Trasho can, not Trasho cannot.
Yes. Hey, Mesker 1, Trash Out God, and Tachi Tachi.
Yes.
Good to have you all here. Get your psyche up, mob.
Yeah, right. As
The
opposed
actual
to
lyrics.
what we thought the lyrics were
Back
before
then.
the beginning. Yes.
It was a
Dark
mistranslated fan attempt at kind of understanding.
And it wasn't a bad fan attempt. Like, I mean, it's just that when it was wrong, it was so...
It was pretty wrong.
I just want to know how...
The inverse of the latent untruth. That was
Yes.
the best line.
Yeah.
But, oh my god.
Wow. Yeah.
Mob review. You know, like...
No, reviews are dead. What are you talking
No.
about? Yeah.
Reviews are a dumb concept in the internet where everyone is wrong, obviously.
Well, that too.
So
That
why
too.
have reviews when you can just be a fanboy?
Yes.
Oh my
broccoli.
god.
So
Guys.
broccoli. We meet again.
Like, I'm still reeling from the finale,
Yeah.
but I'm more just reeling from the fact that season 2 was this good. Like,
Yeah.
like, can we talk
it
about
was
how
absolutely insane.
Mob Psycho was actually like people are already talking about like this could be anime of the year just based on how good the animation was,
Which is
like,
insane to think about, especially considering it's a sequel season. Like,
right?
I mean, because
Right?
it's absolutely fantastic, but like anime of the year to a sequel season, it's like, okay,
just the
whoa,
everything.
that's a big deal.
I know, right?
But
we had music that was just we had direction that was just like professional, high tier, just
what I love to think about is if you think about like, okay, what was the worst of season 2?
it was the transition to the best part of season 2, which was Reigen's little
Sure,
mini arc.
okay, yeah, all right.
The abruptness of that, and that was the one part that pulled me out of season 2.
That actually could be legitimate, because before that I was thinking,
I felt they
like,
should have smoothly transitioned into it. But
sure,
other than
maybe.
that,
well, and it was just disheartening to see Reigen, who was so amazing in season 1 and like unrealistically awesome, you know, even though there were the signs that there were issues there,
a lot of issues,
to see that happen after
Oh my
1000% appreciation and all that. But then, like, even if you were to think about like the early, like, first like 2 or 3 episodes, you know, which is kind of the same kind of thing that did in season 1, where it's like, okay, let's get into a groove and then we'll go from there. But even those episodes really dang good. Like, they developed Mob, they reminded us who he was and why he was such a good boy, just in case anyone had forgotten, so then they could go into all the stuff that would come after that, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So, y'all, before we get into this, really quick, got to give a shout out to one of our VIP patrons, Will Blaze. Love
Yes.
the name, Will Blaze. Thank you so much for joining our VIP patron supporters. We appreciate you so much. Thanks for joining the Discord.
Hope to see you when we do the movie watch.
And the movie watch and the monthly calls. Yes. So thank you so much. We appreciate it a lot.
Intensifies.
Let's catch up with chat real quick. Oh, Lyric with the tier 2 resub for the 5th month in a row. something unknown percentage.
Yeah.
The lyrics to the
known percentage.
yeah, basically. Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. There were some questions we missed up here. Bone Studio. We are unworthy. If everyone's not special, then maybe you can be what you want to be.
Yeah.
That's
That's the thing that's crazy. Like, okay. So, okay. Before we, because, okay, we could just spend this entire podcast raving about how great season 2 was, right? That would be totally legitimate, and that we would have a lot of stuff to talk about, and saying, and like, the thing of saying, because, okay, I think what you're going to end up saying, and I agree, even if it's to a lesser degree, is that Mob Psycho season 2 is better than season 1.
It's an improvement in many ways.
And that in and of itself is an insane thing to think about, because it happens so rarely in storytelling, where the sequel actually improves on and keeps true to the heart of the story.
Totally.
That they established in the beginning. But season 1 was also amazing.
Right.
Like, so the fact that it improved on season 1 is that
Yeah, I do think the main reason why people are freaking out a little bit and talking so much about how season 2 was this great thing is because maybe they were downplaying actually how good season 1 was.
Right.
They saw too many of the flaws because maybe they were coming off of One Punch Man season 1 and they're like, I'm expecting something of that nature,
more similar, because it's the
exactly,
very similar premise,
and they weren't able to vibe maybe so much with the characters, which I don't completely understand, because like I think
because I feel like Mob Psycho season 1 is basically like if you took One Punch Man, but then you like took a cloning machine and then threw Moomin Rider into there, and then you just got more, like, because One Punch Man season 1, amazing. Right, and what they did with Saitama, fantastic. But like Moomin Rider's the real star of the show. Like, I mean, let's be real.
I mean, it was the emotional core of the story, because the arc that they took with that was very different. But when Mob Psycho season 1 happened, people came in expecting, I would say, kind of a similar art direction in a lot of ways.
Madhouse just
yeah, and in a lot of ways, I feel like people were not able to realize the greatness within the character development that was at the core of season 1 with Teru, Ritsu, Mob, and then even in some ways just how charming Reigen was, and like, how much he stole the show.
Developed in season 1, like, it's very special when you have a caricature that can be that awesome.
Yeah. So Mob Psycho season 1, like, I wish we had our channel at the time back when
that would
we
be
watched
fantastic. Because I mean,
stuff.
like, yes, okay. Well said, Psychronia. What's impressive is season 1 lived up to the Shadow One Punch Man cast, and then season 2 lived up to the Shadow season 1 cast.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. And it took it even further beyond. But like when we first watched Mob Psycho, because you got me to watch Mob Psycho season 1.
Yeah, because you were like not really on the One Punch Man Mob Psycho train.
Right, yeah. So
I introduced him to an anime.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, check them, the characters, the development, it's so good.
Yep.
And then when we both watched it and finished it, I think you and I would talk for hours about the genius of them actually going through these tropey things, but having actual character development that mattered. And then the stuff with Reigen at the very end that was making the finale basically this just done, well done.
And like when I think about season 1, because like it had kind of a slow start, right? It was still fun in the first 2 episodes, but you know, it was kind of just like, oh, okay, all right, this is cool, this is nice.
Yeah, it had the whole body improvement club perfection of episode 2, which I would say was probably when Mob Psycho was showcasing its genius of its writing.
Because with the first episode, you didn't necessarily realize that,
right?
And then the whole thing happened with Dimple and everything, and it's like, okay. And then stuff happened with Teru, and this is like, okay,
yeah, it was in rapid succession.
Like, like, because that was the thing that blew my mind. Is that I was like, all right, cool, we have a good story, and then I would keep getting surprised, and they would keep doing these things that where I was like, whoa, are they seriously doing that? Because with Teru, it's like, okay, that's pretty straightforward. There's some other bad guy, some punk with psychic powers and stuff, and then the whole showdown was the gold, right? But then after that, they go into Ritsu, and I was like, I was speechless. Like it was one of those things where I was just kind of looking at Caleb like, are they really doing this? Like, because it had been so positive and so like happy-go-lucky up till that point with Mob, and you know, just being able to talk down Teru even while all the craziness was happening, Teru like trying to kill him and stuff. And then they did all that stuff with Ritsu, and they resolved it in a way that felt right, felt wholesome. It wasn't something where, all right, now they're enemies and they must be, no, none of that crap. They're brothers. You know, they resolve things like brothers. And then there's still stuff that needs to be done.
Yeah, and they actually developed Ritsu, and he changed over the course of those like 2 or 3 episodes that was his mini arc. This is something that we're going to talk about a lot in season 2, is that they maintained this structure of having these character-centric mini arcs where, despite maybe a little bit of hiccups, this was a problem in season 1, I would say. I mean, if we're talking about a problem, it's like a minor hiccup thing of just fitting in the transitions into these mini arcs with the pacing of the overall, show. But other than that, the fact that they would go so deep into these character-centric mini arcs and actually have the character development not be something where it was a closed loop circle and nothing really changed. They actually changed each character fundamentally from the ground up whenever they went into these mini arcs. But in season 2, every single time a character was focused on to be developed or to be brought into the limelight, they also changed Mob in combination with that, which is where...
Because, okay.
Yes.
I'm going to make a comparison to MHA. MHA would also do things where they would focus on a character and give them great development. Like the whole thing with Todoroki in season 2. Like, come on, that was absolutely fantastic. But maybe this is just because it's a manga, and I can't imagine how crazy it must be to write for a manga. But then it's like, okay, now they're sort of put back on the shelf, and we don't really deal with them for now. And that always like makes me sad inside because you get attached to this character, and then you basically have to kind of accept their death in a way,
right?
Because it's like, all right,
because we have to spread the love to another character in the cast so that we don't feel like we're basically abandoning this this whole like section of the crew. And Mob Psycho, I basically think that Mob Psycho kind of tells you which characters are not really like even side characters. They're there to be, I would say, attached to other characters' development, but they're not really going to get that hardcore development. I think that one of the surprise characters, and I would say not really development, but actual characterization in season 2 was an example of this, was Sho. Yes. I did not expect Sho to actually be given so much characterization.
Right, like when he was introduced at the end of season 1, I was kind of like, oh, okay, all right, I've seen this character before. Like, this isn't going to be interesting. And this was like coming off of the high of Reigen 1000%, appreciation, or I can't remember if that was before or after. Yeah, but the gratitude and all that stuff. And it was just like, oh, okay, all right, I suppose.
Sorry, Ahmad's asking a question that's actually a really good one. Quick clarification. Do you mind people asking about non-spoiler manga comparisons for this season? If it's something where the manga is different in the anime based on something that we already saw, I think some people have already told us a bunch of things like that, and I'd rather not open that floodgate too much.
Because it could get out of control.
It could get out of control. So specifically, I know that there were some differences in the explosions at the end of season 2, and a lot of things cut from the Mogami Keiji arc, the little mini arc there.
Right, and those things I feel like are kind of...
That's kind of an expected thing with an anime adaptation.
Well, kind of expected with an anime adaptation, but also like if you just think about season 2 as a whole and the highlight moments and stuff that happened. It feels like that kind of stuff is very much like not obvious, but basically like stuff that you could say like, oh, there was something different that happened there. Oh, I kind of know what it probably was that was different, like because it's just of the way that those moments were. Yeah, all the stuff that you would want to have in those moments feels like it would be fairly straightforward. Maybe I'm wrong, and there was actually other stuff in there too. But like with the Mogami Keiji stuff, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, so they probably went a lot more into the craziness of of Mob being in that world and everything and all of that stuff.
Totally.
There was something I was going to mention, but I can't remember what it was.
No worries. Trashokan, the Discord purge, I give basically almost an entire week the first month. If you don't have either the Patreon or the Twitch setup and stuff like that, I just gotta hold that to be basically the thing. It's around the 5th, but this one I was kind of generous with a lot of people and pushed it out, I think, till either I think it was the 6th. But just make sure at the very least that your like if your Twitch thing is just coming up to the end of it, just make sure that the accounts are synced, because even though it might be a while to get things to recycle and stuff, even if it's coming on the last 2 days and stuff, you should still have the purple roll. And if you were one of the people that didn't have a roll, I don't know what the issue was with that, but yeah, just message me about it and maybe we can work something out next time. But I totally understand. PC Port, thank you so much for the host. Yes, oh my god, we got a lot of people hosting. Mind Pretzel, AO Tripping, thank you so much for the hosts. Awesome. And Lord Petramen with the Twitch Prime sub, thank you so much, y'all. Appreciate it very much. I really need a Reigen massage right now.
Oh,
PC port, I know. I know what you mean, yeah.
YouTube is recommending me a video called Mob Psycho is Overrated.
Oh, I 100% know why someone made a YouTube video like that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's genius because people will be like, what the hell are you talking about?
Well, also, right now, there's a lot of YouTubers that are, like, getting on the hype train for Mob Psycho Season 2 was amazing!
But not necessarily, like, saying why?
Well, no, they're basically... They're basically like saying why in the video, I'm sure, but all their titles are talking about how amazing, how you know, like oh, it's so good. And what I'm guessing is it's like, oh, now it's the right time to put in a contrarian type thing for the purpose of getting that clickbait view, AdSense, and all that. Oh, they're making an OVA written by one. Yes, Jad the Mad.
That is amazing.
Yes, Jacob, the Mob Psycho spoilers channel, Squeaky has been giving so much stuff to me for like just all kinds of info and stuff, and this is like coming this year.
Okay,
like, this is coming soon.
So like, Studio Bones doesn't need as much of a break as what I'm saying.
What I'm
hearing.
Well, this is an OVA, so it's not actually like going to take that much.
Oh, right, yeah, it's just the one
resources,
episode.
You know. But I mean, MHA isn't coming till October, so
that's true.
So they have some time. So it'll be a summer.
Dang.
It'll be a summer thing.
It's gonna be amazing.
So yeah, basically, Mob Psycho, y'all. I totally get it if you're like, hey, I haven't really watched it. It's not really my thing. You know, we're talking about a lot of story specific spoilers and things like that. I highly recommend you watch the first 3 episodes of season 1 to give it that full, I would say, experience shot, because I would say the main problem with Mob Psycho is that first episode. It seems
in season 1 or
in season 1, it doesn't really give you the perfect experience of what the show is really about.
Because the thing is that it's good for establishing all the stuff that's going to come later, but the thing is that, well, Mob Psycho is big enough now that people kind of know the premise without needing to see the premise in the first episode, and then also, well, good isn't good enough. Right. It's totally. The thing where everything else that comes afterwards is so good that to have an episode that doesn't live up to that standard, suddenly it's one of the worst episodes, even though, you know, it might be perfectly serviceable in other circumstances.
Oh, that's hilarious, Junjin. The do you think the Takano Jutsu was too strong in the Suzuki? Okay, so I know about the joke of the Takano Jutsu. It's basically talking is a free action.
Well, and the idea that the most powerful ultimate technique you can ever have is just saying, but why? You know.
Right. Now, what I'm wondering if you're basically saying there is that Mob beat Suzuki with the power of friendship,
right?
And that was something we brought up in the discussion, really in depth. So
it's the idea that there's okay. Usually, Takano Jutsu is used to have a protagonist that cannot really beat the antagonist, but then they're able to kind of talk them down and whittle them down with their words, right? And there's definitely a place for that to be used in storytelling, because it's the idea of, you know, the heart rather than just the plot, you know, stuff and whatnot. And if you pull it off, it can be absolutely incredible, right? In a lot of ways, 210 of MHA was like a reverse Takano Jutsu. But it's even better when it's basically supplanted with action. And in the case of Mob versus Suzuki, it was something where the Takano Jutsu was not to defeat Suzuki in the sense of beating him in the battle. Mob was still able to beat him in the battle. The Takano Jutsu was to rescue his heart after the fact, and even then,
as he was about to explode.
Right, and because, even then, how much of it was Mob versus how much of it was show? Like him having the chance to be able to rethink things, and then being that interaction with show, that small conversation afterwards where, you know, they talk about Mom and everything.
Well, at that point he had already beaten Suzuki. What I think they're trying to bring up was that once Suzuki starts to go closer and closer to 100%, his output starts going into stupid levels, he actually loses control because he's not able to keep his powers contained. And one of the things that I noticed on rewatch was Suzuki starts actually kind of worrying for Mob. Like he's basically like, you're going to die. Like, you can't stop this. And he's not saying this like, haha, you can't stop this.
Right? He's
being like you're making a mistake. You can't stop this. This is my true power. And Mob basically talk no jutsus him into basically saying, no, I'm going to be here with you. No one deserves to die alone. And it's something that I really like in Mob's, I would say, characterization at this point in the anime, because when you look back over season 2, this really was Mob's season. All throughout the episodes, Mob is not only like having like little incremental developments and little changes there. Mm-hmm. He's growing a lot, almost rapidly. And it's because I think in a lot of ways he had finally kind of taken the events of season 1 and kind of ingrained them into who he was. And then there were these little things that kind of called him up to the higher standard and stuff.
And then at the same time, he also called other people up to the higher standard. Because like, when I think about the idea that there was a lot of talk no jutsu in the Suzuki fight, the fact that Mob would even use talk no jutsu in and of itself is pretty crazy, because that shows an immense amount of character development for Mob, because he's not the type of person that would normally do that, right? So on the one hand, if they had just wanted to do that, I would feel like it would have been earned. But then there was also the fact that they did it in a very fresh way. That, like, was it talk no jutsu? Sure, maybe a lot of it was, but I could not be bothered to care.
Remember Emmy, guys? Remember when we thought she'd be a recurring character because she got cool characterization?
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing that I would say is it's an interesting choice in Mob Psycho. I would say it's a similar thing in a lot of shonen, is that they will bring up side characters at a specific time that has nothing to do with when they'll actually get their development. It's basically the writer trying to find time to slot them into the story. And I don't know how much of this is manga adaptation, manga to anime kind of things where things get lost in that regard. But I would say one of the genius things that I felt like I was calling straight from the get-go with Mob's interactions with Reigen in those first couple episodes was that they were setting up Mob's development with certain kind of seeded story elements, to where it made sense that once we got to Mogami Keiji, which I think was kind of the final hammer in the
this season is going to be just the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a better visual metaphor here, but that once the Mogami Keiji arc was finished, once it was over, they basically said, okay, all that had been, bottled up in Mob in there had now exploded out in this really horrifically dark, depressing angle on Mob's development.
And it was another one of those things where, like, when in season 1, when the development happened with Ritsu, and there was the whole thing of like him and the student council president, framing the delinquents and stuff.
Right.
That was one of those things where I was very surprised that Mob Psycho got so dark in that sense, even though it's like it wasn't edgily dark, right? But it really did go dark in many ways. And then the Mogami Keiji stuff was kind of the equivalent of that, where you're sidelined by it and you're like, are they really doing this? I mean, the video's out there, but I was very worried when the Mogami Keiji arc happened. Like, they could have made that much more painful in a good way,
for sure. I mean, I feel like characters in Mob are just people living their lives, and every once in a while they cross their paths with Mob, helping him with his problems, and in return maturing him, in return something that happens a lot in real life, but people don't notice just how much someone can affect someone's life in big ways just by doing small stuff. Yeah, I think it is a lot of it. I think a lot of it is crossing paths. One of the things that I re-emphasized over and over and over and over again in season 2 discussions was that this show is about people growing, but no one's perfect, and that's obvious just by people being perfect. But this was, I would say, extra emphasized in Mob and Reigen, specifically this episode, because it's very easy to, I think, buy into a little bit of the, I would say, kind of the charm and the love for these two characters and be like, oh, these are my perfect boys. They can do no wrong. They can make no mistakes. And then you see like, oh no, they can make mistakes, both of them. And yet neither of them are stuck. And that is where I think all the antagonists end up filling in, is everyone is growing. Like all the protagonists are growing. Even the villains are growing. And we saw this all with the Claw members and stuff. But there are people that are stuck because of either their own choices or because of their delusions about who they are. And that's why we love the Body Improvement Club so much, because they're basically a walking meme, but also the entire core of the theme of this story, which is just improve yourself by making choices that and start to snowball into
in many ways it's kind of meta, because they're basically saying that there's going to be a lot of character development in this show, right? And it's going to be very intentional, and a lot of it's going to focus around Mob, which is a very encouraging thing to hear for a show, especially in a genre where, like in shonen in general, a lot of the times the main characters end up being pretty bland. Let's be real. Mob does not have that problem. Just doesn't.
And it was something that I think that even earlier in season 1, I remember thinking like, this is a show where all the side characters are in some ways more engaging than the main character. I remember thinking that like back early, especially when Teru got all his development. And I was like, holy crap. Like, I'm actually feeling for this Teru guy, and Mob, I'm like, I can tell that he has his whole emotional complex and stuff, but I am excited for his eventual development, development as a character, but I'm more excited right now about these other characters.
Like Ritsu and just seeing Reigen do stuff.
Right. Yeah. And then this whole season was basically like, oh, did you forget? Mob's the main character. He's in the title right there.
Yep, that's right.
And when they really gave his focus, not only in the Mogami Keiji stuff, but in the Reigen arc, I would say that was something that surprised me, was despite having Reigen really be the focus of his mini arc,
like Mob kind of stopped being the main character for just that little arc there.
Right. They hit us with the double whammy at the very end by having Mob basically come back and be like, yeah, I understood. I understand. Like, I know who you are.
And in a lot of ways, the very fact that Mob stopped being the main character for that arc was one of the biggest developments for Mob that they could have ever done. Like, that was because it's showing that he can stand on his own 2 feet, right? He's not dependent on Reigen. He is his own person, all this amazing stuff. And then while that's happening, we can just be thinking about that while the other stuff is happening with Reigen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Cycronia, I'd like to point out that contrary to the usual trope, Mob was the one constantly throwing out, we're not so different in season 2. That's true. We will get into that. We have a whole section specifically for Serizawa and Suzuki, and oh my god, like, there's so much of that in this one here. It's something that I think they brilliantly set up in the beginning by having him start to see the separation between spirits and humans as not being so separate. And then they segued that into the Mogami Keiji stuff to where he could actually find the similarities not only between him and Mogami, but him and the girl that Mogami was possessing. Right. There's a lot of really cool things where Mob took the initiative in this season, whereas in past stuff he needed
he was reactive.
He was reactive, and he needed other people to take the initiative for him. Right. I feel like we can't underestimate or can't undervalue the bit where Reigen basically set this in motion by saying, it's okay to let other people, help you. It's okay to run away from something like this. Because I think conversely, by him saying it's okay to leave the situation to someone else, Mob understands, like, okay, that's an option I have, which means I have the other option as well. Like, I think that's not really explored in season 1 because it's at the very end of season 1, but every situation moving forward into season 2, you see Mob basically kind of taking little steps forward, and I just love it. It's perfect. It's wonderful. Oh my god.
Oh, I get why people would say that Mob Psycho is overrated, especially in a season that is as stacked as the winter season was. I mean, Love is War, Promised Neverland, Dororo, Domestic Girlfriend, Second Half of Slime, JoJo's still ongoing, Shield Hero. So if your favorite of these gets swept under the rug because of Mob Psycho, I at least understand why they would say that. Yeah,
it's something that I actively dislike, though, that people feel like there's some kind of war between shows, or that like there's only so much passion that can go around. I'm like, have you met the Body Improvement Club? Have you met all these like wonderful characters? Use them as your inspiration. It's like, it's all amazing and stuff.
And the rebuttal those people would probably say is, then why haven't you reacted to all of them? But
I mean,
so see you can see this next level play here, because when there's the people jumping on the popular bandwagon of Mob Psycho season 2 being amazing, because it was, then you have the people doing the reverse bandwagon of it's overrated, but we're taking it even further and doing the reverse on the reverse bandwagon with that. So get good, Scrubs.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Where does the Mob opening rank for you among the opening of the anime you're currently reacting to?
Gotcha. So basically Domestic Girlfriend is not included in that comparison. Okay. That's how I get my comment in there, Caleb, because it was fitting for right here.
Well, I don't rank openings. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's just an arbitrary thing. I loved the Mob Psycho season 2 opening.
Yeah, like it was fantastic,
really good.
And the thing is, it tied in so much into what the season was about, which is because okay, when I think about an opening, I want it to hype me up and like get me emotionally prepared and set the tone for what the story is going to be, for what this episode is going to be, because that's like having the proper basically setup and being in the right state of mind for a story is one of the most important things you can have. Improperly set expectations is the reason most people hate most stories, right? I don't know about the veracity of that, but for a lot of stories, and the whole thing of the way it talked about Mob and everything, that's like I would have been a little bit worried almost if they had gone into the development for Mob that they did without having the stuff in the opening, because the opening kind of got me ready for it. Get ready. That this development was going to be crazy and in a direction that I would not have expected.
For sure.
But yeah, so I mean, the opening's amazing. What more is there to say?
Oh, I'm shutting that down, Ramiz. Mob is a better Deku than Deku is a better Deku. Change my mind. No, Mob and Deku are completely different types of characters, and I will fight you to say that they're even close to similar.
But here's where I will say that, and maybe we can have a battle about this, but here's where I will say I get what you're saying, and I kind of agree, is that Deku, unfortunately, in MHA, because it's gotten so stupid popular and it's gone on for so long, and maybe just because, I mean, hey, it's a manga, and it's I can't imagine how hard it would be to come up with something like that every week and still keep the high quality that you have early on. But my biggest complaint with MHA is that it feels sometimes like it loses its way.
Or it's essentially taking too long
to get there.
And I understand that, and that's primarily because they're different types of stories. But I would say that the things about Deku that make him great in a lot of ways are the place where I would find it similar, actually, is that he has a Reigen. Deku and Mob each have their hero, their person that they look up to. But I think you that's the thing that makes them the most similar, in my opinion, but also the thing that makes them actually the most different just immediately from there, because you look at what All Might represents as a character and what Reigen represents as a character, and it's completely different.
Right.
Deku sought out All Might and knew what he was going for, and if anything, he saved him. Mob had a bit of a chance encounter, and it was almost as if fate basically prepared them to be right to where they could both help each other. But we can suppose what would have happened if they would have never encountered.
But in his own way, Mob did seek Reigen out. So here's the thing.
But he didn't seek out Reigen. He sought out anyone.
Oh yeah. But it was still Reigen.
No. I know, Jacob. But that's why I call it fate. Whereas Deku intentionally sought out All Might.
But could it also be fate there, because it was a serendipitous encounter in both cases?
Because
like the fact
All
that
Might
he would have run
him.
into All Might, like that.
Right. Right, but the difference is that once he encounters All Might, he clings to him. He does not let go. Mob basically was.
He also did in Mob's own way, like because here's the thing that like it makes me think about it is that Mob and Deku are both very different kinds of characters. They're protagonists.
Thank you. That's all I would say.
And they do it in very amazing ways, but very different ways, very strong ways in their own right.
Right.
But it is a different kind. It's not just like a different kind. It's not just a different like level on the scale, different numbers, you know, so to speak. 1,000,000% or
So what are you saying?
But that basically, Reigen is to Mob what All Might is to Deku.
Oh wait, no way.
No. In the way that they need for them as a character.
Okay, that sentence didn't make sense.
And Mob might be further along than Deku is in that relationship with All Might, right? And in that Mob has gotten independent faster, right, than Deku has. But it's still the same kind of like. I mean, you could boiling it just down to a mentor relationship would be a bit of a that would be cutting it short.
Okay,
but like because
I don't think you've really convinced me because the original thing was that Mob is a better Deku than Deku is a better Deku, and my rebuttal to that was I can't even make the comparison there because the only thing that I find fundamentally similar to them is the actual dual main character All Might. Deku, Mob, Reigen.
So
connection.
okay. So here's how I would say you can make the comparison: is that they're both the emotional heart of the show that they're in.
Okay, but that's still not their character.
No. I know. Because because since they're different people, it will manifest itself in different ways. But as for the emotional heart of the show, the way I would say you can make that comparison and say that Mob is better, at least with what we've seen so far, is because the amount of weight that Mob as the heart of the show ends up having in the show, whereas with Deku in recent times has become less.
Okay.
Just because of the amount of time they focus on it and stuff.
I would call that a little bit of a localization and recency bias kind of argument because you're basically saying I'm taking just the recent stuff of Deku and not the entire gamut of Deku.
No, I know, but
and comparing it just to what you recently had in Mob. But
because there's like triple E episodes in MHA, like
So okay, I'm going to basically agree to disagree, but I want to have. I haven't actually had my thing to give the difference here. So the thing that makes Deku different fundamentally than Mob. Yeah. Deku has a goal. And his goal is directly tied to his hero. Mob's direct goal that he has is improvement. It's vague. It's about expanding what he's capable of for some very, I would say, immediate things, and that is changing. The thing about Deku that I would say that's kind of cool, I would say it's a little bit different, is that as he grows specifically, he's going to leave All Might. He's going to basically grow past him. He's going to go
in a very literal sense.
In a very literal sense, exactly. Yeah. With Mob, what's going to happen, I would say, more on a beautiful kind of sense, and this is where I really like where Mob's going in some ways compared to what Deku is going, but it's completely different type of this, is that him and Reigen are going to move to be peers.
Right.
And in some ways, Mob is going to inspire those around him to grow, the same way that Deku is doing there. But the aspect of just growing for the sake of growing is something that doesn't encourage people to rally. It encourages people to go and be independent. Deku, I would say, is like a flag. He's a flag bearer. He draws people towards a specific point. Mob is basically unconsciously not even he is not actively going and seeking out other people to make them grow.
Sure. Okay. So
that's the difference, I would say, is that Mob is not a magnet. Deku is a magnet. And it's even a joke, even in the shippers and stuff, is that Deku is basically this magnet of drawing people to their acceleration and growth. And Mob is just being like, I'm just going to grow. And other people are going to look at that and go, that's really cool.
So I get the whole magnet thing. That makes a lot of sense because while because Mob in a lot of ways does the same stuff as Deku, but it comes from a different place. Whereas Deku sort of just draws everything to him. When Mob runs into these people, he will intentionally like sort of give them that push.
Yeah,
right?
You're right, Daiki. This comparison is going nowhere. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's go back to on track here. I think this episode could have been better if it was a couple episodes longer. Transitions between arcs need a little bit more breaking. Breathing room, I felt. Yeah, that is probably the only thing that when I look back on it, I say, yes, that's why it's not a perfect season.
This season was draining. Like
draining?
Yeah, like there was so much stuff happening. Like I was so worried at so many different points. Like, I mean, it was absolutely hype in so many different ways. But like, oh boy, there were so many points where I was just like, no, let's just have it be happy slice of life for a while.
Yeah, I think the draining bit, what I would translate that for me is that I felt the energy being like really high, but I never saw it as being like actually like tiring. There's some other shows out there that we react to that I would say are
much more emotionally exhausting.
They're exhausting because of how heavy a lot of the things are. If anything, in Mob Psycho as a show, there seemed to be this really impactful development, so we knew that the consequences were real.
Right.
And I think that that's something that like gets me excited because most shows don't have actual consequences.
And again,
development of the
with
characters.
a week by week story, the fact that Mob Psycho is able to do that is absolutely incredible. And like even when I think about the emotionally exhausting moments that were emotionally exhausting for me, Mob Psycho as a show does a really good job of basically having there be lighthearted moments before and after. It was just one of those things where because of how big the moments were, I wasn't sure if we were going to get them. And we still would end up getting them, but it was usually like in the next episode. And that would result in like one of the worst like weeks of waiting for the next episode ever.
For sure. Oh, Gooey Engineer with the tier 1 resub for 6 months in a row. Thank you so much, Gooey. Appreciate it. Oh, man.
The message.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, hey, someone getting a message deleted. Don't be giving manga spoilers. Thank you, mods, for keeping things good here. The best boy is still Gon from Hunter x Hunter. It's so wholesome. Gon is pretty amazing. But remember, it's the best character in Hunter x Hunter is the relationship between Gon and Killua.
Exactly.
Let's be, real here. Oh wait, the ultimate crossover I didn't know I wanted came to me this season. Reigen versus Cosmo rock paper scissors match, the battle of the century. Also, I want to point out that Mob and Megumin are more or less the same age. Oh, sure. Yeah, there you go. Huh. A+ season 2 discussion right here, guys. Thanks Ollie. Okay, so yeah, we're through with that whole thing there. Let's actually go into Serizawa, because I think that Serizawa surprised us.
Oh yeah.
There was a couple characters, and Sho is one of them, but I think if we were to compare, Serizawa, I think, surprised us way more than Sho did.
Right, because the thing is that Sho, at the end of season 1, they're like, okay, this guy's going to be a focus, and even if I didn't necessarily like that he was going to be a focus because I didn't think it would be done well, it's like, okay, that's going to happen.
Yep.
But then Serizawa, it's like, no, this just guy comes in with an umbrella, and you cut onto it really well and really fast.
The character design just basically told it all.
Yeah, he was basically a 15 years older mob.
And I was like, oh my god, like, he's even got the
and Suzuki
the
looking
emotional
like Reigen
stuntness, and Suzuki looked like Reigen. And one of our mods for the Mob Psycho spoilers channel, Squeaky, shout out to Squeaky, she's awesome, was constantly like talking about episodes and things after we had watched them, being like oh my gosh, like look at this like specific thing that's going on here. And especially once we finished the show, she had a whole list of things that were like, here's some more comparisons that like you guys didn't even bring up between Serizawa and Mob, and then also Suzuki and Reigen. And having Suzuki be brought in the story for the purpose of power escalation and, a super bad, big,
with
evil.
the super original ability of being able to scale infinitely
with power absorption and all that, and having essentially the all for one power and stuff. We were like, okay,
Or
cool.
No, I'm not even gonna make the. No, I'm not even gonna say the word Petrelli. But
don't even go there. But when they brought him in. And they brought in this whole big conflict with the battle stuff. We're like, okay, cool. They're going back into the season 1. We're going to have, the big battle ending, kind of thing there. And we're like, all right, sweet. But Serizawa was just there, basically saying, oh, this is going to have serious character, like introspective moments.
Because the thing is like, when I think about how much time Serizawa actually took in the story of season 2, it wasn't much.
Not much at all.
Like, it really wasn't much. But the amount of bang we got for our buck in that sense was ridiculous. Like,
oh my gosh.
And it primed us so perfectly for Suzuki. Like,
it did.
Like, because the thing is, Mob could have faced Suzuki, and it would have been fine. It would have been absolutely serviceable, and it still would have been great, right? But the fact that it was right after Serizawa, and with the development with Reigen earlier in the season, that was just wow.
Right. And I think Serizawa was a perfect contradiction to the whole idea of the antagonists primarily being the ones that are stunted in their growth. This was something that Reigen brought up back in season 1 about them all being children, essentially still playing at, life. And they're all in their costumes and stuff. But Serizawa was basically this thing of you knew that the reason why he was stunted was not fully something he was either aware of or choices that he made of his own power. Now when I say power, I don't mean just will. I mean resolve, almost, in a way, like a shonen term.
Right.
But you saw this
a shonen.
Yes. You saw Suzuki, and he was this I would say, like, almost archon of power. He had this presence about him that wasn't bombastic or over the top. He just spoke with a commanding, power. And you're like, okay, sure, buddy, whatever. We'll take you seriously because, why not? But then the way you saw Serizawa kind of in this doting, puppy dog, almost creepy kind of thing where you're like, oh crap, Suzuki has this guy bent around his finger. And the fact that we saw earlier in the season where Reigen's dark side could come out. We saw what that would look like.
Even from someone like Reigen.
Even from someone like Reigen. Because Reigen is not perfect. They made it
still
very
human.
He can make serious mistakes.
Yep.
It was something that I remember talking with Jacob off camera. Or wait, no, I didn't talk with you actually. This is a good time to bring this up. Because I was thinking I should talk to Jacob about this. But when we finished the Reigen arc, I wanted to talk to you about something that had been kind of nagging at me as to why I think the sudden, kind of shift in Reigen into that arc
had some whiplash.
Had some whiplash to me, but also why I should have given it more grace was there was a time in my life, as a little story here, I promise it won't take too long here, when I lived in California. And there was someone who I was very close with, good friend of mine. He was particularly staunchly defending a certain, I don't even remember what it was. He was holding fast to a specific line of thinking or reasoning or something like that. And I basically was kind of an asshole and basically said you're holding so tightly to this because blah blah blah, and said some things that were just
cut too deep.
That cut way too deep. It was extremely insensitive. And I was blissfully unaware of what happened in the immediate sense. But what ended up happening was the person came to me afterwards and was I misjudged you. I did not know you could basically stoop that low. I did. Wow. And it was one of the most one of the most gut-wrenching moments of just self-awareness, realizing oh my God, Caleb, you screwed up big. And this was back when I was 21 or something like that. So no excuses or anything like that, but it was formative in that time for being like, Caleb, you need to like be careful and watch what you say and stuff like that, because I think the guy was about like 6-7 years older than me, and maybe I just assumed that the
there's nothing you could really say that would, you know,
really bug him or anything like that. But it was a check in me, and I still remember like the more, not really what I said, but more him coming to me. I remember like his words more than anything. And thinking back to Reigen here screwing up in this area, it was like a thing of, oh my god, I know exactly how you can mess up in that area.
Right. It's right. And I feel like it's one of those things where that's probably the biggest one, where if there had been like a better transition into it, it would have worked a lot better.
Right.
Like than maybe any of the other arcs in season 2, because there is that aspect of it that could be very relatable. And it's just it's like that dichotomy of like, just because something's relatable doesn't make it entertaining to watch in a story, right? You know, like on like first go through, because of how much we love Reigen at this point, and then to see that kind of crumble, or to see the smoke behind the mirrors, or the man behind the curtain kind of a thing.
Right.
In some ways, it's tough to get without prep for it.
No one likes to see your heroes fall.
Exactly.
I think that one of the things that's beautiful in stories that have heroes that do like great things and stuff is to put some kind of contradiction in there that is consistently displayed. And in a lot of ways, Reigen's flaw was consistently displayed through season 1,
right.
But he always had the right thing to say in conjunction with that.
Right. So the fact that then he didn't have the right thing to say, and then suddenly it's like this thing that we had been sort of ignoring because, well, Reigen's so awesome and this is anime, so we don't have to necessarily treat it as we would if it was like real people doing these things, you know? Because in that situation we'd be like, well, sure, you might say these awesome things, but what the hell is this other bit, right? But you know, you kind of just go with it as the shtick, but then they're like, no, we're treating this seriously, and it's like, oh, but why?
Right. And with Serizawa, to tie this all back into here, Serizawa was this character who you saw as this, oh, this is where the general direction of that relationship, if handled without confrontation, without someone calling you on it, basically doing the mogami thing that he said, and being hard on people, which was directly before the Reigen Mob little moment there. So Mob is not having any of this here. When Mob confronts Serizawa, he's not I would say easy on Serizawa. He's like, no, you're in a complete screwed up setup here. Like, he is not being nice to Serizawa's house of cards. Like, he is basically being like, I'm just gonna just completely destroy that.
Right.
And Serizawa freaks out.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those great moments where they could have had it be a thing of where, no, Suzuki is so like, everything that he has done has been so ingrained deeply into me that I am strong in my devotion, everything like that. But they made it so. No, Suzuki
they showed
has
that
nothing.
It very much was a house of cards, because that's the kind of thing that it would be. Because Suzuki wouldn't actually care to make it like Suzuki, if he had played his cards just like just slightly better, even from the standpoint of like being controlling, but like being deceptively controlling, he totally could have spun Serizawa around his thumb, right? And Mob never would have been able to reach him. But the fact that he never even did those like bare minimum things to secure that like hold over Serizawa, Mob just comes in and calls it like he sees it, and Serizawa can't refute it, right?
Right. So he freaks out. Yeah. And there was something that we were a huge fan of in the way they showcased the umbrella being something that he carried with him as his extension of the room. Basically, he never left the room. So the umbrella was basically the source of his power, his belief in himself being tied to the object that had been given to him by Suzuki to be this false protection, if you will, from the dangers of the world. And anything that he deems as being a threat to his house of cards, he can obliterate with his umbrella. But all has to happen is for someone to be able to take the umbrella's
and just stop
it, or at the very least separate him from it.
And that's the same kind of thing they ended up doing with Suzuki, which again makes it a great primer for the Suzuki fight, because it's basically like taking the idea of, if you have a truly overpowered protagonist, right? They can do all this stuff, and you don't have to worry about, oh, are they going to win? Like, you're self-aware enough that you're like, no, of course they're going to win, right? Because they're the overpowered protagonist. Then all these character archetypes and stuff, even though Serizawa is one of the ones that I would say is much rarer in storytelling, there are different things that you can do as a way to have the battles be a means by which you can basically reveal aspects of their character and get them to question things themselves. Because they come against this immovable object, and suddenly the tools and tricks and stuff that they had before aren't enough, and they have to rethink things.
It's something that was, I would say, said rather explicitly with Suzuki, just given in how he brought his whole worldview of being the strongest in the world and intentionally letting out, or like omitting, certain other, interpretations of that perception to lead him to his, his philosophy and conclusions with that. So as a character, he in some ways was holding a much bigger, weirder umbrella that was, keeping him in his own echo chamber, just so perfectly. In fact, I love the directing and the choice of how they set up the whole bit of his wife leaving by having him just sit there looking at essentially a bright blank screen, just being like, oh yes, my power means that everyone will follow me, and I don't have to worry about that. And she just says, okay, goodbye, and just is gone. And the speed at which she interrupts his train of thought to goodbye, and she's gone,
and suddenly it's like his whole world is kind of
his
gone.
Whole worldview, everything just was shattered. And in some ways this was something that I kind of, because that happened after Reigen said, I know of 3 ways I can defeat you, right? I think that Reigen was BSing his whole way through that, but I think that Reigen might have been smart enough to realize how dumb his worldview was.
Right, exactly. And
so he's basically saying, I don't have to defeat you in power. I can just defeat your way of thinking with like a word or a phrase or because a couple other things.
Suzuki is still human.
Bless you. There's a lot of people.
It went away.
There's a lot of people bringing up some cool stuff here. Mesker 1, this is the one I want to bring up. Characters in fiction are usually so consistent that them doing a mistake is always interpreted as the writer making a mistake, like bad characterization. But it's the other way around. It's a realistic attribute rarely found in writing. People aren't always consistent and can make grave mistakes.
Right. And the thing is in storytelling is that because you don't often see inside the head of the person doing the things, then the mistake, it doesn't come with the usual consequences, it feels like, of the mistake to that person. So then it can kind of end up getting swept under the rug. They didn't do that here, but it was one of those things where, like, because Reigen did, like, realize, like, oh, I was being too hard on him, and then he reverses on it and says, like, you don't actually have to do this, Mob, that's fine.
One of the things that I love to talk about in this, because I'm probably one of the people that really likes to I would say hold the story to a higher standard when they talk about mistakes being inconsistent. Because one of the things that I'm talking about is a mistake is not actually a character doing something that has an immediate, like, bad, an immediate negative consequence. But having a choice that's made that in and of itself has the consequences attached to it. It's inevitable. And I think Reigen's...
Like the fatal flaw kind of thing?
I think, yes, it's definitely a fatal flaw. I think Reigen has the perfect example of that, in that we knew eventually this would happen. We didn't have a problem with it happening. We just had a problem with how quickly it seemed to happen, because of what happened in the last episode. It was basically like, oh, Mogami Keiji's finishing bit there meant, okay, now... eventually, Mob's gonna call Reigen out on something like this, and they just did it immediately in the next episode, in the very beginning, and had Reigen. I think if Reigen had done things that were even like a little bit subtler, I would have liked it even more, because Mob is basically saying, no, I have a really high standard now, and Reigen could have just said one thing, and Reigen could have tried to double down on it after that, instead of being like, I'm gonna give my whole monologue thing, and then Mob at the very end there gives him a thing, and then Reigen goes, huh, what? because then that would have been Reigen essentially digging his own grave
Right.
in his fatal
Which
flaw.
is-
He
which
can't
is-
see that it's a flaw.
Right, which is totally Reigen's style, and at the same time, he's so good at it that it's that thing of like, how do you balance the two things?
Right. It was just a small choice that I think is overall totally okay.
Yeah.
I just would have expected them to do it a different way.
So, Lyria, that's
Can we talk about Squeaky? Just give
wow.
1,500 bits.
Thank you,
Oh
Squeaky.
my God, Squeaky! We're just like gushing about you, and
Thank
with
you
the 1,500
so much
bits,
for-
thank you so much.
Wow.
Do you want me to read this one, or do you want to you?
Go for it.
Okay, I've said it many times already, but thank you guys again for watching and reacting to Mob Psycho 100 Season 2 on the channel. It has been a joy watching and discussing each week, and I look forward to hopefully having Season 3 soon to discuss. Also, Reigen, best Shishu. Shishu?
Shisho?
Shisho? What does that mean?
Sensei? I don't
Sensei?
know. No, because
Maybe?
it'd just be sensei. Mentor? I don't know.
Explain! What is Shisho?
Our weeb level isn't high enough. Okay, whoa, scroll back up.
Lyria's thing
Yeah.
here.
So I'm someone who's never bugged by the introduction of the Reigen separation arc. I think a big part of it was that I was rewatching season 1 with a friend, where Reigen says almost the exact same stuff 1-to-1 in regards to Mob wanting to join a club. He then ended up leaning a little too hard on it, and I went, ooh, well, there it is. Reigen, probably my 2 favorite episodes in this series. Not sure.
That's a good point. Can you send us on the Discord that part from season 1? Can anyone please tell us where that is? Because I want to, like, I rewatched season 1 of Mob Psycho so much because of how much I loved the character development stuff in the middle of the story, and I think I might have just missed on what part that was, because
It probably would have been like
it's
in,
probably
like,
the
early on.
Yeah, it's probably early on when he's thinking about joining the telepathy club.
Right, or even the Body Improvement Club.
No. I think it
yeah.
was the telepathy club,
Oh, okay.
because Reigen is talking about how
Oh,
this
right.
girl is trying to use you.
Sure, and then Mob joining the Body Improvement Club is in a way his also rebuttal to Reigen, even though he doesn't realize it as being that at the time, possibly.
Sure,
Because it's him choosing his own thing.
totally. But yeah, that's a good point, Lyria.
Yeah, because Reigen's whole thing with the gratitude at the end of season 1 was so great. Like, it did kind of overshadow anything else, like all the other sketchy stuff about Reigen.
For sure. I think Reigen saying all that stuff makes sort of sense in that moment, because since season 1, he has warned Mob that people are using him, and since he has not witnessed Mob's change in the Mogami arc, he didn't think about what he implied is bad. Because see, that's a good
Right.
point, because here's another meta knowledge thing that I think bled a little bit into my interpretation of the scene. Reigen has been right most of the time.
Right,
This is
he's so in tune with like how people work,
Right.
that he'll usually be able to kind of bullshit his way through things, and he
Right.
ends up being right in some way, shape, or form.
Right. So when people were being like, you guys are being too too like glorifying, or appreciate, just of
Or
Reigen,
too hard on Reigen,
or we're being too hard on Reigen, realizing that this has been a problem this whole time. What we're more thinking of is that he should have, like, maybe we're imprinting a little bit too much, that he should have had some kind of more meta knowledge of this whole thing,
right?
there,
Or been
because
more perceptive on how Mob was responding. And granted,
or how Mob would changed back when
Right.
Dimple was kind of bringing that whole thing up.
and granted, Mob isn't very expressive either, like
Yes.
visually, in
Yes.
design and other things. So
For sure.
it would make sense that Reigen wouldn't necessarily pick up on the signs.
Totally.
But it was one of those things where we just wanted him to, because he was able to literally just like lie his way into freeing everybody in season 1, which
For
was
sure.
one of the best moments ever.
Right. The first episodes, I think, of season 1 also, in some ways, are hard to bring up as being something that was a constant problem, because of how much Reigen does for Mob at the end of season 1.
Right. It's the thing of like it doesn't feel like there were consistent issues along in season 1. I mean, maybe there were and we just didn't notice it, but Reigen was so awesome that it, like, I totally had forgiven/forgot about the whole dynamic of their relationship.
And I think
early
that's
on.
actually genius, because in a lot of ways it's basically saying, hey, this character, you think they're a caricature? Oh, you think that they've got like everything
Sure.
worked out? It's
Uh-huh.
like, oh, just you wait, you wait.
And in general, if you ever
Oh, Shisho equals master.
Gotcha.
Master.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, so I was kind of along the right line with Sensei, but not quite. Okay.
Gotcha.
But
that would be teacher if they
right,
did,
exactly. But
Sensei.
the thing is, like, if you ever have the opportunity to make a character that is anything like Reigen in like being a caricature that people just love, right? Do it, and then worry about developing them later. You know,
for sure. Oh, episode 1 and 2 have a lot of Reigen talking Mob out of interacting with other people. Episode 1 is a very similar situation with the ceiling crasher. Ghost versus Tofu Ghost calls Mob last minute to help the scared couple that hired him. I would think they made it similar on purpose. Episode 2 has the club stuff.
Right. I remember the stuff of him constantly calling Mob and the whole thing of him paying Mob next to nothing and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the part that I don't think we ever were disputing Reigen being kind of a scumbag in this regard. It's kind of why we love the characters in Konosuba in some ways, where you have these characters that are, you know, dirty scumbags and stuff, but their camaraderie together overshadows all the parts in which they are kind of they're not really great people. And and in a lot of ways, the perceptions of how much value the value Mob was getting despite that was something that I really felt like needed to be said, because Mob was saved by Reigen, even though Reigen did kind of random shitty things to Mob.
Yeah.
The fact that basically, and this is something Squeaky pointed out, was that Mob and Serizawa's age of when they were basically, because Serizawa became a shut-in apparently within like 6 months or a year older of where Mob was when he came to visit Reigen.
Oh, wow.
So Mob was this close to basically becoming a locked-in Serizawa.
Yeah.
And basically doing the same thing that Serizawa did to his mom that Mob would have done to Ritsu. So basically there was this narrow window closing in of where if Reigen had rejected Mob from the get-go, you know, if he hadn't had that little bit of a, ooh, I can use this kid thing there,
right,
Mob would have ended up basically a whole different person. Like, who knows what would have happened. And it's not really, I would say, good discussion topic to be like, oh, what would have happened? Like, we're not in the business of AUs or something like that.
I mean, not yet, but the fact that
for sure.
that parallel is there is very good, because anytime you can have parallels between your main character and the villains and have it actually be a parallel, not just something that the villain espouses, for sure, that is a very good thing.
Yeah. Next level writing that we aren't used to. When the writer takes into account what each character ought to know. Cough, the message, cough. Oh my gosh, Mesker. Wow.
See, the thing is, I'm not a good liar, so if I were in that situation, I would just basically just tell everything in the best way possible and
probably
let the cards fall where they may.
Yeah.
And basically say, you're going to want to kill me, but please don't, because there's a good reason for this.
Oh my gosh. What plot lines you guys think will be brought up in season 3? Interesting to hear your anime-only perspective.
I mean, Mogami Keiji's still out there.
Well, yeah, Mogami Keiji's still out there, but I still feel like the main thing left in this story, because I only really think about the story from Mob's perspective, in that his power is still something that is a mystery. They don't need to explain it, but I think they need to go into where Mob can find true balance, because I was having a little bit of a disagreement with some of the people in the Discord and stuff, because they were bringing up something that the anime changed. So this is something that in the manga was different. When Suzuki and Mob fight, the reason why Mob's face kept changing was because he was exploding different emotions at the time.
Right.
One of the things that I've been trying to kind of tout a lot specifically is that Mob's explosions are not healthy. Exploding shows that he
doesn't know how to process.
He doesn't know how to process the emotion, so he explodes it out. I see a future where Mob doesn't have to explode. The reason why I think the anime changed that, hot take here, is because they're basically saying that Mob is on his way to actually being able to control those emotions. Exactly. Because there's a specific part in the beginning of the fight where Mob realizes that the pleasure he was having, like a sick, twisted, like masochistic pleasure of the fight and stuff.
Who's it that calls him out on it?
Ritsu. if anything,
that's right,
has kind of a Ritsu looks at him a little bit freaked out, and Mob
right,
like
and then Mob's
pulls back, and he's like, I almost
shit.
let that power control me.
Right. Yeah.
Then the thing is that according to the way the manga was done, after that there are more explosions.
Right.
I don't think that works really as well if you say that he basically pulled back and allowed his power to be
because
something that he was keeping control.
The way I would say that what ends up happening if you take that angle with how the manga actually has it is that then you're basically saying Mob's not a perfect person, right? He's going on a bumpy path to where he needs to go, right?
Which is good.
And you're right, because the idea of it's like, hey, at least he's on the other ditch, you know, the other side of the road, right? Yeah. which is way leagues better than where he was before. But because it's a season finale, it's something that doesn't make it as hype or as awesome or as like conclusive like for a season. So that's I get the feeling that's probably why they did it, because then it's introducing in some ways it could be considered introducing a new character arc for Mob at the end of a season, which would feel kind of weird.
Well, also, I gotta say, go back through season 2, they don't really show Mob's percentage going up almost ever towards explosions. There's like 1 or 2 times.
And there were a lot of quick jumps too, where it's suddenly like, oh, I know I'm at 96 or something.
Right. They also showed other characters' explosions. And I think this is more the point that Mob is actually going to start helping people who have similar problems with what he's dealt with. But he still is not fully there yet. Right. I still feel like
he still has a way to go.
He still has a little bit of ways to go. And I want to see Mob find a balanced way to release and express his emotions, but also still grow in at a steady rate. And when I think about what they've kind of set up with the Body Improvement Club, basically being the soul, not a soul thing, but one of the main representations of the themes of the show, having Mob develop his muscles, if you will, is a great picture of where gradual, consistent growth is better than an explosion of growth. Chaotic, violent, all at once growth.
Okay.
Because it's the stuff that's actually going to be built and added into the mass. It's going to be more permanent.
Okay, so what if? All right, I'm maybe I'm kind of cheating here.
Okay,
but what if it was a split of both? Because like a lot of times when I feel like when people talk about something where it's like, okay, I worked my entire life to get here. Oftentimes it's something of I worked my entire life to get to the point where I could have in an instant, in a specific moment, have kind of an explosive change that causes that shift, and then that shift is permanent, right?
Right. But do you know that was where it started, or was actually a bunch of little things before that led you to an explosion?
Right, exactly. There were all the little things that led them to that point where they could make the explosion. In real life, it's usually just a decision.
A decision,
you know, like a permanent decision.
Right.
So particle wave duality, you know, both and neither.
Yeah, okay. You know, I'm totally down for that. I just see that the way that they can focus on that in a clever way within the mechanics of the show is going inward to Mob as a character and exploring his power. Because one of the things his power. Because one of the things I've been talking about with a couple people was basically like, okay, you think about Mob as a character right now.
Yeah.
You do not need to explain his power, if you will.
No.
But here's a fun way of looking at it. The explosions are all releases of emotion, right? He developed an emotional complex because he was not willing to express. He didn't find himself with the power to express his emotions.
Right.
Someone like that, developing a complex, that's kind of like saying they're developing another personality, or they're locking another personality away.
Sure, and the ways that you could use the explosions as a positive thing is that Mob is getting in touch with himself, so he knows what explosions are there, and then he's shifting into them as needed in which one is appropriate in the situation.
Right.
With then the whole thing in the finale with the Ritsu of it being, I realized I switched into one that basically had a purpose because I need to beat this guy, but there are consequences to switching into that explosion. I need maybe an explosion, even if it works in this situation, it's not a good final solution.
Right. You had to phrase it like that. The
Wait.
Yeah, it's all good. It's
I
all
didn't
good.
even catch that.
Yeah, it's all good. The idea of the explosions being a positive thing in specific areas is because it allows him to be aware of the amount of stuff he's still got locked away. Mm-hmm. It's basically the magnifying glass on the problem that he has all his emotions still locked away,
bringing it all out to the light, warts and all, with it, just hence all the different stages of how he was during that finale fight. He was bringing everything out.
Yeah, and you need to be able to do something badly before you can do something well.
Exactly.
And I think that this is just a step towards Mob's more full maturation, which is where I feel like the show is going to end. Is that it's not that Mob is going to be done growing at some point and then the show will end. It's going to be that Mob is balanced, and I would say at kind of a whole oneness with himself. And I feel like right now he's kind of split in that it's not like a literal like other personality, but he's got a part of him that he is still unwilling to let out naturally to the world. It has to come out in a fight where it explodes.
Right.
And that is not a healthy thing to have.
It is a progression towards a healthier thing.
Right.
But it is not the end. And even if it And
that's where I'd want to see a plot line go towards, is go into that, use the powers as a way to explore it a little bit. You don't need to explain everything, but because his explosions of emotion result in explosions of power, there's a connection there.
Yeah, definitely.
And then also maybe just going into the effects on the world with this whole vegetable development. Maybe broccoli. Maybe some things with the helmet club, the helmet cult.
Okay. Here's what I think. Here's what I think for season 3. Helmet cult, sure. Will they actually do anything seriously with helmet cult? I don't know. They might just have it be something kind of like Reigen, where you don't think they're going to do anything seriously with it, and then they do. But I think Emmy is going to be the big one.
Sure. Yes.
Because
definitely.
they touched on her character several times throughout this season.
Yep.
And with how Mob has grown, that I feel like, okay, because Mob Psycho is a coming of age story, right? Yep. When you really think about it, it's a coming of age story, and there's all this powers and crazy stuff. But I think what will really end up, like what they could do as a series finale, or at least a portion of the series finale, is that Mob is able to talk to Emmy. Because if you think about it, a lot of it started with that, of him not being able to talk to her, and there being the whole miscommunication of things about that, and the way that she like treated him and all that stuff, and him needing to express his feelings and emotions.
Just to clarify, Tsubomi was the one that he had the original crush on.
Oh, wait.
Emmy is the one that was the writer who came in season 2.
Okay.
So I am totally for Endgame with Emmy.
Oh no, okay, yeah,
but
So
remember
what I was meaning was Tsubome, the non-potato pepper,
right?
Or eggplant, squash, what all of those.
The non-vegetable, if you will.
The non-vegetable. So I think the non-vegetable is going to be Endgame, because it will be sort of that coming of age story where the guy, like, confessing his feelings to the girl or whatever, or getting the girl, but in this case it's going to be different, because that's not how it's going to go with Mob, and maybe it'll actually be Emmy that he ends up with or whatever. Then that could be really cool, but it will be him being able to face that and handle that in a mature way that is going to be sort of the cherry on top of showing how much Mob has grown, not just with his powers and everything, but specifically how he applies it to his own personal life. So yeah, that's what I would most love to see moving forward, because I
also think that him talking to Tsubomi, and being like, being confident enough in that, there would also be some pretty cool dynamic of having him basically realizing that he doesn't need her to like him. If anything, this is just an expression of his emotion, Right, it's a healthy expression of that.
Yep.
But he doesn't need a positive response from her. Right. And I'm almost thinking that I don't need Mob to end up with someone at the end of the show.
Well, and with the whole thing with Tsubomi, I actually want it to be something of kind of like him basically saying, "I'm over you."
Oh, whoa!
Like it's okay.
Chat.
And basically saying that he understands.
Oh,
he understands the kind of person that she is and everything, and there's no ill feelings or anything like that. But it's like, I get it, and that's cool, and it's okay, And
sure. Yeah. I'm interested to see if the conversation would then go down a little bit differently. Maybe it's not just a thing of Mob, rejecting her or something like that. But he basically comes to her and is like, hey, I would really like to spend time with you and get to know you. And they end up having some kind of a connection there. But then Mob realizes that his growth as a person has led him to this point, but he doesn't need another person in his life in order to be a whole person.
Right, exactly.
There's some beauty, I think, in that the whole aspect of relationships, like the whole relationship between Mob and Reigen, the relationship between Mob and Ritsu,
or Dimple,
or Dimple, is that Mob it was said at the end of the show, like, we need other people, right? But in order to be a whole person, you don't want to put the burden of your being a whole person on someone else, because people are people. Yeah, people are people. We bring our full self into whatever situation we're in. No one out there is going to complete you or fulfill you. You need to find that within yourself.
You must love you.
But other people can and
do
help you in ways that you could never imagine. It's basically the go beyond, drill, piercing the heavens, doing more than what the sum of the
body
whole
improvement
is.
Fight.
Yes, exactly. They push you to go beyond in that regard.
Yeah.
So yeah, oh my gosh, people in chat, y'all are hilarious. Mob indeed has a harem. Emmy ship greater than Tsubomi ship. One was laying groundwork for a harem story all along. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you can say whatever ones are, but one thing you can't deny is the man Land's facial expressions.
Reigen certainly has some prime facial expressions.
I gotta say, it was something that I think was confirmed, but that Reigen in a lot of ways was an Onizuka reference.
Oh, that was confirmed?
I'm not sure, but if I remember correctly in the Discord, someone was like,
it's confirmed.
No, other people in the Discord were saying, yes, Reigen was inspired in some way by Onizuka.
I mean, the hair is like the same style,
with the expressions,
the same color.
I meant.
He has the expressions. He's a sketchy person that tells really wholesome stuff to someone at a middle school that really needs the help.
It works. It works. Ooh,
and he ends up rule of cooling things that he shouldn't be able to rule of cool.
For sure. What did you think about the cliffhanger in episode 8, Death of Mob's Family? Upon finishing the season, I feel as though it was not needed and sort of cheap.
Yeah. The thing is, it was cheap because they backpedaled hard on it immediately after. But the reason why I would say it's not completely cheap is because, one, the impact that it has on Mob has lasting effects, like throughout the rest of the season.
Right.
2, the very idea that they would bring something like that up, even though they don't follow through on it. And again, it's like the thing of, oh, okay, they didn't follow through on it, but how could you with something like that? But the fact that they gave that scare, it just worked so well for me. Like, because
yeah, I remember that discussion.
Oh yeah, like
you were basically like, the show is over.
Yeah,
like,
because
how do you,
like they jumped the shark. It's changed forever. Like, they can't actually go back to the way things were with having them actually be dead.
Right.
But the fact that they would be able to do that this late in the story, when usually that happens way earlier, if you're going to do that for the sort of tragic backstory, hero's journey, force out to go develop and stuff like that. I don't know. Just thinking about what the show would be like if they had done that was enough for me.
Oh, okay. So sorry, there is no confirmation on that. Reigen was created by one for a one-shot manga he was creating, actually. Okay,
gotcha. Okay,
cool. It does seem like there was maybe some inspiration, but yeah, there are enough differences to where I'd say it wasn't an obvious reference necessarily, because there are a lot of characters like that I would say are less of a comparison, less of an immediate comparison. But that type of shady sensei that has a wholesome side to them, that's a lot of characters, But yeah, it's more, I think, a thing because
done in that specific way. It's like, okay,
for sure.
Yeah.
It only felt cheap since this is an anime where it ends on a cliffhanger. Doubt it felt that way in manga. That's a good point. Basically, that manga, unless it was at the very end of a chapter or something, You know, it doesn't have to be actually a cliffhanger.
Right.
That's
and
a
I
good
think
point.
I think I remember someone saying earlier on in the chat that that in the manga Dimple immediately like dismisses it.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think if anything, how could they not exploit that for the point of basically just dicking with the viewers?
Because why not? With everything else that had been happening that season, it fit. Like,
yeah,
like with all the craziness that had been happening, it's like they wouldn't go there, but holy crap, they might actually.
Yeah, I think we might have been able to accept it a little bit more if they actually left in apparently a lot of the darker stuff that happened in the Mogami Keiji stuff in the manga.
Sure.
And if they had done that, then we would have been like, oh, yeah, this is just the darker part of Mob.
Like, this is the psycho that's going into Mob Psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think the cliffhanger was cheap. What was cheap was them dismissing the issue 30 seconds into the next episode. I think that is the part that primarily needs to be focused on, yes, is them deciding that not only was it a thing that was essentially a form of, like, retcon, was that Dimple didn't know 100% that they were fakes.
But the fact, but it's like, but Dimple would absolutely make up something like that because what else are you going to tell Mob?
Right, you know? And I like that we weren't actually 100% certain that they were fakes. Yeah.
Certainty.
Right. Even in the beginning of the episode, even though we were probably like 98%, certain that they were fakes.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. Let me scroll back up. There might have been a couple things that we missed just to make sure.
People are thinking, okay, so comparing Tsubomi and Broccoli-chan, I don't know. They're both they have their own strengths and weaknesses. Like, yeah, so that's tough.
Yeah, lots of nutritional value in one,
you
know, lots of waifu value in the other one. There you go.
It's tough.
The anime had a more show, don't tell approach to it in the manga. Since one's art isn't visually impressive, it had to rely on telling the viewers the exact emotions.
Oh, talking about the finale?
I'm talking about the finale. See, that's actually a very interesting point. I have never had, at least so far in our reactions and stuff, had something where I felt like the anime leaving something out, I think actually helped the overall experience. I think if they had said those explosions and stuff, my discussion of that episode would have been entirely different, and I would have felt like it was a missed opportunity by telling us how Mob was feeling.
Right, because especially when you're Bones and you can do all the stuff that they've shown us time and time again that they can do. Like, you don't need to tell us. Like, oh, yeah.
The cliffhanger was a really well done bait, but sorry if you're going to believe for a second that Mob's story would go the Mogami Keiji route after all, and the show would be willing to sacrifice all of Mob's character projection just thus far, just to break him for shock value and edginess. You're really not paying attention to what kind of show this is. Well, that's a little pretentious, don't you think?
Or a lot. Also, just because we're saying that they're doing that they were talking about doing the killing the family of the main character, doesn't mean that we would be thinking that it would be something where it would go the same direction that traditionally goes for main characters in storytelling. If you watch the discussion, the main thing that I was talking about was the idea of how Mob would come to terms with that because of how traumatic that would actually be. And the fact that he has all these people near him and has grown up till that point. So, yeah, becoming like Mogami Keiji, no way.
Yeah. Sorry, what's going on here?
So Caleb saying Tsubomi has nutritional value was weird, but I agree that Broccoli-chan has a lot of waifu material. That's yeah.
There you go. Oh, gotcha. There's no two versions of Mob Psycho manga. Okay. The season 2 episode 13 thing I think was a poor decision since it basically broke the established rule throughout the rest of the show. It leaves the viewer reasonably doubting that explosions are happening when they've been done the same way all the way through. Show don't tell, be damned, lol.
Or is it something where it's actually hinting on progression for Mob because the fact that, like, Because, okay, the fact that the explosions were happening like that, it could be that he was dredging up every emotion inside of him that he had been bottled up for so long as a way to get every ounce of power that he could to defeat Suzuki.
Or
that
you could say
totally
he was out of control because he was letting his power essentially take him.
Right, and that maybe
And
it was a
then
mix
all
of the two of them, but at the same time, if you're talking about something like that where Mob is basically bringing about the explosion, even if it's by just dredging up everything and bringing it out, then that is in a way showcasing that he is kind of in control of it, even though it's like a modicum of control, right?
Or the other way is that he's not in control.
Right, yeah.
And what I think both ways basically lead us to, it leads to a similar conclusion if it's the he is in control thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can't be the he's not in control thing, because he basically has the moment of, oh, I almost went out of control here.
Right.
He then would have
Yeah,
had
it's not 100%
explosions
one way or the other.
Right. He then would have had explosions afterwards, and if those explosions were under control, that leads us to, I think, the same conclusion, which is Mob is incrementally learning how to express his emotions in a way that is healthier and shows his growth as a character. By not showing us that, I think that emphasizes even more that his emotions are being released out with
intention at the very least.
Intention and control for the most part,
mm-hmm.
because we're not classifying it directly as an explosion. Now, does that mean I dislike the whole explosion mechanic? No. I'm saying that I think that it draws emphasis more towards Mob's growth by not specifically calling it an explosion, because I think the explosion takes out a little bit of Mob's agency as a character based on my current understanding of what those explosions are.
Yeah,
so
Mob is getting better at dealing with his emotions, but he still has them bottled up and he still explodes. Suzuki Fight was a very emotionally and stressful event. Yep. Totes.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure that they were specifically explosions, but then you go into like, okay, why was it this emotion of explosion?
Well, right. Well, and also, okay, this is maybe a bit of a controversial opinion, but I'm of the opinion that we need more things where the anime takes liberty with the source material, because given the fact that you're dealing with something that is pumped out on a weekly basis a lot of the time, I don't know if Mob Psycho is exactly, or was.
I think the manga's over.
Yeah, I think the manga's not Mobga. I think the manga's over by now. Yeah. But when you have people that understand the source material that they're adapting, they understand the heart behind it, I feel like taking little liberties here and there with it can be a really good thing, because sometimes it, like, one, with just the change in medium, some things work better than others, but also, I mean, hey, you're getting fresh perspective. You know, you're getting things that are different, which can be really good.
Oh, sorry, is the manga not over? I heard from someone at Frisbee that the manga is over. Okay, the manga is over. Yeah. Okay. I have a buddy of mine who plays at Frisbee, and he's very big fans of Promised Neverland manga, the Mob Psycho 100 manga, what else? One Piece manga. He actually doesn't really like Berserk because he says it just depresses him. But
I wonder why.
He's got really good taste in stories and stuff. And when we talked about like what he makes him appreciate a story, I really get excited about that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
Okay, it ended in 2017. Okay, cool. Good to know. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Thank you very much. But they were specifically explosions because that's the emotion he was feeling at the moment. Okay, yeah. That's something that still is, good to know and stuff. I think that we're still talking about whether or not Mob had agency / control in the explosions. And I think that it just focuses on showing that Mob had more control in these explosions than he did in previous ones.
And they still did kind of say, even though they didn't do like the traditional, like, 100% this, or, question mark % this, or, 1000% this, or whatever. They still did bring up like some of the emotions that I've seen listed in chat.
Like the body improvement, fight on. Like,
well, sure. Or even the more negative ones. Like they talked about it, and Mob talked about it. And in a lot of ways, like, even if that's different from how it was in the manga, I kind of prefer that, because it's something of Mob basically showing Mob's internals of how he's dealing with the emotions as the explosion is happening. Because one of the things that could be done, Mob Psycho doesn't do this, and I don't think it did this in the earlier seasons, really, because it was always very clear what was going on in Mob's headspace, I feel like, even when he was exploding. But when you get into the more complex stuff where there's multiple different explosions, you could just have it be a, this is what this explosion is, this is what this explosion is. But seeing Mob like just deal with all of the explosions as they're happening, that to me just personally has a lot more value, because it's just showing a more like up close perspective of it.
Sure.
But
I agree too. Yeah. Mob's always had control during any non-percentage explosion. Oh, I know what you're meaning. Not in the Mob has no control over
what
he's
he's doing,
but
it's more of the emotions themselves.
Right, he's locked into a specific type of emotion. So if he has a negative emotion he's feeling, you could say that he is more out of control than if he has a positive emotion that he's locked into at 100%. And that's still, I'm talking about balance here. Having the option to basically go, I don't want to feel that right now.
Right.
I don't want to feel 100% rage or 100% this.
And again, that was kind of brought up in the finale, because one, there was the fact that when he sees how Ritsu sees him, he throttles back. But then there's also the idea that there's multiple, which again has this connotation of balance, because it's not just focusing on one thing for too
that's
long.
A great point. Yeah.
I
didn't even think about that in terms of the multiple being actually the gamut of emotions.
Right.
Not just him reacting to Suzuki's current thing that he's bringing out, and that makes him react in an emotion, but it's the let's tap into all of the emotion.
Yeah.
Showing the full gamut instead of saying, all right, this only. And also showing that he needs, I would say, all of his emotions to be a whole person in the same way that he needed all of it to defeat.
Right. The good and the bad are all parts of you. Yeah. They use the term explosion, but it just seems like a power-up. Maybe the term explosion creates an assumption for us English viewers. It totally could be that, too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a thing that I'm bringing into the definition of exploding. I would say another way to look at it that's less, I would say, violent, chaotic, and or out of control is expression. Expression 100%.
Right.
Because it's just something coming out.
That's an unfiltered, just raw. Yeah.
Well, you don't even have to go there. Just basically that it just comes out.
Sure.
That's the main thing of it. It's like more power coming out,
Oh, gotcha. Oh,
because he has his true powers
about the power,
within.
not about the emotions.
Or well, no, I'm talking about the.
You are talking about the emotions.
I'm talking about the emotions and the power.
Okay.
But yeah, I sometimes switch them interchangeably because I see it being the same thing.
Well, that's the cool thing about Mob Psycho, and the whole aspect of the way one will have these overpowered protagonists is that by doing that, you're making it so that the conflict really is with the emotions and the internals of the person, right? The powers themselves are just a representation of that. A lot of the time, stories will get flack for doing that at the very end with the Deus Ex Machina, right? Or having some sort of Mary Sue type character. But the thing is that there's a very real reason that happens in the first place. Whereas with one, he'll stick to his guns and he'll own that, so that way from the very beginning you know that's what it's about, so that when it happens it is not only emotionally satisfying but also feels basically a conducive, or not conducive, but a mechanically a good way to solve the problems, because it was established from the very beginning and that's what the story's all about. So
Can we just clap
Mob
for,
Psycho. It's amazing.
Clap for that, like chat, like that was some really good stuff from Jacob right there. Holy crap! I think it's important to note too that Mob is the only character who specifically explodes with emotions. Psychic powers in Mob Psycho are tied to emotions, but Mob specifically explodes with emotions because he created the complex. And bottles up his emotions and powers ever since the incident in 3-2, and they come out when he feels them strongly.
Absolutely.
Yep, definitely.
Oh, did you guys talk about the teleportation fight? One of the best animated fights I've ever seen.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we do need to kind of talk about that. Does it have much bearing on the story itself? Whatever. But
let's give, like, basically one's like, superpowers are great. But what happens when you get a busted combo of two superpowers, but they actually use it well?
See, okay.
That never happens. That never happens.
So you guys may recall, I've said this a few times, not that often, for it to be like a catchphrase or anything, but one of the things that I always wanted to see in Harry Potter was basically clever uses of like teleporting in fights. Oh yeah. So like someone is about to cast like Avada Kedavra and then they teleport behind the person or something like that. Yeah, exactly. And maybe that would have gotten too anime-like or whatever, or if people said like something for a fire attack, but it's actually an ice attack, so when they block with water, it actually freezes the person. You know. But I felt like this was basically that with the teleporting, because and not only the teleporting, but also the
precog,
not Rasengan, the
Mangekyou Sharingan.
Sharingan, yes, because that's like the fact that it was.
I don't even watch
Sasuke's,
Naruto, and I know that crap.
Like the fact that it was Sasuke's voice actor. He literally had a red eye power that he unleashes to be able to foresee all of their moves.
Gosh.
Like that was a whole other level of just hilarity, but they really did make it terrifying, and Bones animated it gorgeously, and we also got to see all of these amazing characters fight against him, which was wonderful.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And then Reigen just punching the crap out of him at the end. Self-defense rush.
Yeah, the whole way that Shimizuku?
Shimazaki?
Shimazaki? What was his name, guys? Chat. What was the teleporter guy's name?
Yeah.
Shimazaki? Yeah, I think it was
Sasuke-chan?
Sasuke-chan, yeah. Shimazaki, yeah. Shimazaki, or... Yeah.
Shimazaki.
What,
teleporting is one of Sasuke's main powers, by the way?
Oh my god, of course it is. How OP can a person really get? What? Oh, just that you quit Naruto before he even got anything like that. So you're just like I'm glad you quit.
I remember it being like Chidori and different Sharingans
Chidori
and stuff.
lightning.
Yeah, that's lightning. Yeah. Because like in Fumofu and blue hair lightning.
Right.
Yeah.
Dark 1987. Thank you so much for the follow. Glad to have you here.
Yes. But yeah, Shimazaki. Like wow, that was
the sexy fella. Yes, exactly.
Be grateful you got out, Jacob.
Oh man, oh my god.
Never made it to the eye mecha, huh?
Oh.
Although I have seen the final fight between Naruto and Sasuke because that's gorgeously animated. And I didn't know a lot of the crap that they were doing, but
honestly, when the boss explosion was happening, I was wondering where Shimazaki was, because teleportation would have been really helpful.
Yeah, I know, right? One of the things I also was wondering is I was like, okay, is Mob going to talk to the guy? Is he going to like do like the thing that he ended up doing of I will contain the explosion, or is he going to do the thing of like, okay, cool, we're just going to like go out in space real quick, all right, so
you are who you choose to be. I'm Superman.
Yeah. Well, but they could have had it be something where Mob is basically like, well, sometimes, you have things and explosions happen, right? Mm-hmm. You have emotions and you can't deal with them, and then you just need to make sure that you don't, hurt people with them because they care about you and stuff, and they could have done all sorts of things with that too.
Yep.
But yeah, the fact that Teru looks like Naruto.
Yeah.
Well, see, he does now. Beforehand, when he had his wonderful hair, he didn't quite look like Naruto.
That's true.
Also, one of the things that I absolutely love is that the voice actor for Teru is the voice actor for Ryuji from Toradora.
Right.
Like, when I rewatched Mob Psycho Season 1 in the dub, and it got to that point, and he's all like, why won't you use your psychic powers? I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I expected him to start like cleaning the school they were destroying, but yeah.
Squeaky. He witnessed the immense power of the greatest psychic of the 21st century, as well as the menacing aura of his 14-year-old student, and yeeted it out.
Yeah.
That line, thank you, Squeaky. This is why you're the best. Oh my gosh, that's just so perfect. Because when they showed Reigen walking up to him for that brief second,
and he's like
the joy that just came upon my face, like he can't see him. Oh no, Shimazaki has psychic AirPods in. He can't see him,
basically,
and then just
that's like
it was so perfect.
And the idea of Reigen specifically shouting self-defense rush, because it's probably not self-defense, but just in case it goes to court, he wants to have that as just
proof.
Like,
oh my god, it's so great.
Also, someone mentioned this earlier, but every time Reigen like used the psychic cursed pepper spray, like
yeah, there was a lot of really good humor this season. Like
wonderful.
We talk a lot about the story quality and the character development quality in this season, but there was some really good comedy in this season. Yeah. And a lot of it is not just the the little gags or the little kind of wordplay or something like that, but they would set up a lot of little jokes and then just completely subvert expectations on us, and we'd just be left like, I'm dying.
Or the good old one where they're hiding in the area and they're like, and it's like, wait, where did the other guy go? And it turns out he just hid in a cupboard, and that's just a transition bit there. Like, yes.
Oh man, what were some of your guys' favorite like comedy moments this season? There are so many to choose from. Y'all are talking about Shimazaki, stuff like that.
I'm totally confident Mob would be able to teleport if someone asked him to try. He's like Superman in that the limitations of his powers are in what he hasn't tried yet. So are you saying at some point Mob will shoot out little copies of himself out of his eyes that will then also have powers and do stuff?
Oh man, that pains me. Oh man. Oh my gosh. Eye catches were so great this season. They were all done by a former assistant for one on the manga. Wait, eye catches? What does eye catches mean?
Oh, like I'm guessing all the things of like the little things that were sort of snuck in there.
Okay.
Like so things like maybe him like hiding in the cupboard.
Oh, the transitions.
Or just things that like
the mid cards. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're all done by the assistant. That's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, those were hilarious.
I wonder what the teleportation range is, because I imagine him just laying on a beach in Hawaii with the tide slowly coming in as he questions his life choices. Yeah, basically, Ollie. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
The broccoli at the end killed me. Remembering the broccoli explosion in the season 1 opening and the broccoli seeds. I think I had to pause the episode for like 30 seconds because I was laughing so hard. Yeah, the broccoli I gotta admit, I didn't laugh as hard immediately. It was more of a WTF moment, but just the fact that it was like,
they literally had that in the season 1 opening.
They seeded that so long ago. And also in the beginning of season 2, when the broccoli seeds were actually put into his
that too.
Pocket and stuff. And Squeaky brought it up, apparently, that we were making jokes about broccoli when we first saw the season 2 OP.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, right in the beginning, we were like, oh, look, broccoli everywhere. Yep. And it's like, Jacob, you were like, it's broccoli time or something like that.
Wow.
Squeaky was all like,
they don't know.
They have no idea.
Chekhov's crops finally bearing fruit. The foreshadowing is real.
Seriously. Anything with Shimazaki I love. Yeah, Shimazaki was something else. It was great to see this character who they basically created the Ultimate 5 or whatever to showcase Shimazaki and Serizawa. The other characters were completely useless, non-existent. Yeah. Like, just, okay, we're antagonists.
Did I really say there always has to be broccoli?
Oh my gosh, I think you did.
That's great. Wow. That's wonderful.
Wow. Mob becoming adult gone when he remembers the Body Improvement Club in Mogami's world. That did happen.
I have no idea what you're talking about, because that almost would because I don't think anything like that ever happened in Hunter x Hunter, because that's not something that I would really want to talk about, because I don't want to spoil anybody.
Oh. Gotcha. You did. It was incredible. We're mostly focusing on the last few episodes, but the rest of the season has so much to talk about too.
Yeah, I mean, I
think that I think that going through the whole Reigen mob stuff could lead to a lot of character analysis there, but there's a lot in where Reigen is shown to have, I would say, a lot of things that are not really pathetic, but just kind of showing how much he's just making this up as he goes along. The fact that his mom is giving him like so much crap about all of this stuff, and is like, just, oh man, if anyone out there has ever tried to do your own thing, and there's all these people that mean well, but they just give the most like dick punching feedback commentary.
I just care about you.
I just care about you so much.
That's fine.
Yeah. Would you shut up? It's something that I can't tell you guys how many times, like, Jacob and I have had very different experiences with this, but look, we've always been people that have wanted to do our own thing and wanted to do something different from the
outside
way that
the bell curve, you know.
Than the way that society basically says that you should go about doing things.
Yeah.
And there are all these people that will say things that mean really well, where they're basically doing the kind of the crabs in a bucket thing. Like, please don't be different. Please pull you back down. And we've had to basically end relationships, like tons of them, where it's just like, I'm just going to start living my life, and you know, I can't be bothered to. Yeah.
One of the advantages that we had with YouTube and everything is that we kept it a secret. We didn't tell anybody that we were doing it until, like, you know, finally it's like, oh yeah, this is what we do for a living, and then it's like, wait, what? You know?
Yeah.
Like, can you actually do that? Oh.
Yeah. But there was also the whole stuff with the bar where there were all the people that were people that I think Reigen, I think kind of relied upon them to make himself feel better about how he was doing in life. And that's really sad.
Wow.
Because they were right to basically call him out on his BS when he came back that one time. Because that's essentially what he was doing.
Yeah. And at the same time,
he cared about them because they made him feel better.
Right.
But he didn't really care about them.
Yep.
So I'm glad that happened. They spent good screen time on both the setup for it and the conclusion of it. I really appreciated that.
Squeaky, that is incredible. It's a small and subtle scene, but one of my favorite moments actually is where Reigen hesitates to open the email from his mother because he most likely already knows the kind of message it would be. That's like, oh man. Like the idea that the relationship would go so far as to be like, oh, if I'm hearing something from the person, it's probably about this. That sucks.
Oh, yeah. Also, the way he throws up from how stressed out he was, and we know because the bartender said he didn't put any alcohol in his drink. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that
was
was
his birthday, no less. Yeah.
Yeah, they really basically said, okay, Reigen, you're not going to like him in the beginning of this episode, but we're going to make you empathize with Reigen very quickly.
He's going to have a rough day.
He's going to have a really rough day. They did not hold back on that. Yeah. And I feel like that wasn't just a plot mechanic to get us to feel for him. That was us finally getting a look into what his life is really like. And I think that because so much of this has been from Mob's perspective, we only see Reigen interacting with characters that we've, spent a lot of time with already. He doesn't really interact with people outside of Mob. And that's something that I feel like they've been building up to for a long time also, is the eventual realization from Reigen that him and Mob are equals. And in a lot of ways, Mob is showing him how he can grow. And there's going to be, I think, a moment by the end of the show where Reigen's going to come up to him and say, thank you for coming into my life, because I don't know where I would have been.
Yeah.
Like you might think that that whole thing was a chance encounter and stuff like that, but for you in a lot of ways, it started us down this path. But he might even bring that up. He might even bring that up, just bringing up how much Mob changed him for the better.
And the way they did the flashback to when he met Mob and everything, while he's thinking about his speech and stuff at the press conference, oh man, that was just yeah.
Because we usually see Reigen alongside Mob, I totally forgot that he smoked. Oh, that's a good point.
Sure.
The idea of Reigen is that he's basically a host club member. A host club member?
Are you talking about Oren High School Host Club?
Oh, the Mob with the tambourine out of rhythm. Yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah. I'm glad I didn't think about the possession theory while watching that episode. Would have taken away a lot of the emotional punch. Oh, gotcha. The dumb theory we had about that Dimple was possessing Reigen.
Although we didn't we did consider that, but maybe I'm totally wrong and just rose-colored glasses for remembering. But I think we kind of dismissed that because it didn't have the spots on his cheeks, and that was kind of always a like a telltale thing that they would do whenever Dimple was
Right.
possessing
I
someone.
think that they're more roasting us because we needed that to be the
Sure.
evidence. Where
Fair point.
I don't remember who was the one that kind of pushed the other person out of that theory, but I remember at one point it getting brought up, and I was like cringing a little bit because I was like, oh yeah, no, I don't think that's at all what they were going for.
We have video evidence, but no, I think you were talking about evil spirits in general.
Well, that was actually a thing that I remember bringing up, because I thought the whole curse with Reigen was actually going to be a little bit bigger of a plot element. But
that
then
really felt like a red herring, or it didn't feel like a red herring, but it ended up being a red herring.
Well, no, they showed it come on to him at one point,
right?
But then it was like, oh, it was just dealt with by Dimple eating it.
Right.
I thought that there would be actually a more residual effect from that, but yeah. We said Dimple. Yeah,
right. Because the whole point was that Dimple is wanting to manipulate Mob, and that's what he espouses, at least. Even though by the end of it, it's kind of like, sure.
I think actually, if anything, I wish they would have gone a little bit more into Dimple.
I still kind of like that Mob subconsciously cursing Reigen.
Yeah,
as a theory,
I kind of like it. Yeah,
because it's this idea of we're the whole season was focusing on how Mob is able to get angry, right, and get really bothered by things, and how he deals with that.
Yeah.
And while it would have been kind of a subversion, or not necessarily in a good way, of Mob's powers, since his powers always kind of the deepest intent of his powers is usually communicated, right? So even when he's exploding, it's still, he'll still repair the school like in season 1 and things like that.
Yeah, and I didn't take the guy seriously of saying you're gonna get cursed. I almost am kind of peeved that was basically used as a joke, which I think is fine as a joke. But I think if they wanted to double down on it and say that it was actually kind of foreshadowing for Mob eventually subconsciously cursing Reigen, it may bug you guys with your brilliant hindsight 2020, why that's a bad idea because it doesn't happen knowledge, but like I don't think it's too crazy.
Right. And yeah, there was the guy that said he was going to curse Reigen, but like the guy didn't actually have any real abilities, right? So
no, he did. He did apparently, because he got cursed.
Well, yeah. Right. Well, he said he was going to have someone else curse him, right? Or did he do the cursing, or did he have someone else do it? I mean, we didn't see it happen, so we couldn't know. It could be just part of the whole thing of the general negative energy that they brought up a lot more in season 2.
Yeah, he hired someone. That's right. Yeah, he had someone else do it. Yeah, he didn't have any power. Right. That's a good point.
Gotcha.
We're not really talking about video games at the moment, Razor Shark. I don't really know too much about the game in order to give you an answer on that.
I've heard a bunch of people talking about it, not any specifics, but just in general.
Well, he went to another specialist.
Yeah.
The Mob Curse theory wasn't dumb or anything compared to the Dimple one. It was clever. Yeah, the Dimple one is pretty bad. Looking back on it, I remember cringing at myself buying into that theory. I mean, it's not as bad as Magnets.
We were just wanting to believe that it wasn't Reigen because we love Reigen so much.
Hey, and that's another thing. Like, at least we make theories that are really dumb. You guys get to meme them off of us.
There we go. We're giving you ammunition.
Yeah.
That's part of the...
that's the package deal.
Exactly. Yeah.
We'll eventually, have really good moments that they'll be like, holy crap, how did they predict that? Because, I mean, we do that as well. At the end, we're like, wait, holy crap, how did we predict that? And I was like, I don't know. You were just high off the energy of this random thing, and then you decided to, I'm just going to peek into the future and uncover the whole plot of the show.
Or even better, we'll get to a point where there are so many different memes about bad theories that, you guys have an entire language you can use. So you can speak. You can be like, so the magnets and the message and the blah, 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 and the, everything. And then, and people will come into the Discord and they'll be like, wait, what is this? And people will be like, oh, well, let me tell you, friend, there's you got some catching up to do.
You got some catching up to do. And there's still people that have no idea about the magnets thing, because they're like, Maiden Abyss? What?
I mean, we put out so many videos, and so even just going back a year or two ago, it's like that's so many videos ago.
Yeah, I feel like I'm starting to get into the whack theories actually with another show that we're reacting to. I don't want to go and talk about that because we're talking about Mob Psycho right now.
Mhm.
But I feel like
no talking about domestic girlfriend in this podcast.
Dang it, Jacob. But I feel like you guys are really good at handling our bad theories by memeing us with it, but not being dicks about it. Because obvious, like we feel it hard when we're like, oof, we were wrong. We were really wrong in that point there. But
Reigen puked because of the curse of the abyss, which is caused by magnets. I remember seeing someone up earlier. Reigen puked because Dimple possessed him.
It was all a dream. For every series you start, you'll be right eventually, and you'll say, "Ah, I told you." Warner Brothers Japan blocked the episode. Dimple must have possessed. Oh my gosh, Reigen puked because of the curse of the abyss, which is caused by magnets.
Yep.
Oh my god. By the way, little funny little teaser there. This is nothing to do with this, but it is Twitch related. The subscribed monthly badges, basically your tiers of how many months you've been subscribed, total or whatever. Those are going to be different forms of magnets. I've got an artist working on it, and you guys will each have your, all of you are subscribers will have your different forms of more ascended magnets based on like how many months you've subscribed. So yeah, we're taking the meme and we're owning it all the way. It's gonna be hilarious and stuff.
Oh, I'm not a Patreon since I'm poor, but just want to thank you guys for doing an awesome job of reacting and talking about shows. You make my days every day, so a big thank you. Thank you so much. The
GE.
The GE 245. Thank you.
Appreciate you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's something that's really wholesome, but like, I mean, and we're not starving for positive reinforcement, but like, it really does make our day when someone's just like, oh, like, we really enjoy what you guys do. Because every once in a while we get like, a little bit like out of whack, and we're like, are we doing a good job,
right?
Or are we screwing up, or because
the idea that we're watching anime is still kind of weird. Like, we've kind of gotten used to it, but it's
not all the time.
Weird. So like when they're like, when you guys call us out on our
our less than theories.
Sometimes we can get focused on that too much. Some people can also contribute to that with how they bring up those theories. But so hearing the positive stuff where it's like, okay, yes, we are actually bringing something to the table.
Thank you for that.
We really appreciate it.
What about the armor instead of magnets? Well, we'll find another thing.
What about the armor? Well, okay, so
I mean, maybe one of the magnets will be armored. You don't know, like.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. It's not really a spoiler, but the armor in Battle Lines is magnet proof. It is magnet proof because you need to make sure
oh my god,
that it's magnet proof.
Of course you made it magnet proof.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Oh man. Just curious, between season 1 and season 2, what is your guys' favorite Reigen moment? My favorite Reigen moment right now is because it's not just a Reigen moment, it's a Reigen Mob moment. It's the moment where Mob forgives Reigen and Reigen and him have their little moment in the middle of season 2. That moment, I still watch it right now, and I'm crying still. Just like I cry watching that over again. Like, there's times where I rewatch like specific moments from like our reactions because I'm like, I want to feel what that was like all over again. Yes, I rewatch some of our reactions and stuff because I'm a sadist. I don't know, whatever. But the point is that scene, I don't need anything else other than just like that 20 seconds of Mob and him talking, and the tears start flowing, man. I
could not say what my favorite Reigen scene is because there are
so
many. The self-defense rush, the gratitude, that there's so many.
There's a lot of them, yeah. Host clubs are basically a business out of giving people attention and telling them what they want to hear. I feel Reigen was heavily inspired by that.
Oh, gotcha. So, okay.
Cool.
So kind of like the Maid Cafe thing, but not quite as on that level.
What's funny is you guys joke around and guess important stuff about animes without knowing, and it's great. Oh, so we need to have more just random dumb theory stuff because
Probably,
we're right like some percentage of the time. Okay.
Probably.
You just made me a lucky man, Caleb. Wait, Trashicon, what do you mean?
Hold on. Talking about the Reigen puked because of the curse of the abyss caused by magnets? Or?
I don't know, maybe. You guys made me realize I care about discussions more so than the reactions themselves.
Thank you, Mesker.
Oh, Mesker, thank you. That's nice.
Anime specialist. Yeah, that's what we can...
Oh my god.
Professional weeb. Yeah.
No. No. Oh, you have grown up. And Mob saying back the words that Reigen said to him when they first met about being a good...
Okay.
I'm already, like, heating up.
That's why you don't use magnets on the armor in battle lines. You use it in conjunction with a second magnet behind the armor that is an electromagnet. That way you can control when it actually ends up being used.
Oh my gosh.
Is that a thing in... Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah.
No. Maybe.
Good grief. I cried even more watching that scene than I did reading that scene. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh, I was talking about the magnet badges.
Oh, making me a lucky... Oh, yes, for sure, Trashocon. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're finalizing soon what will be the kind of the differences between them. We've got kind of more or less the design working out now.
Oh yeah, Reigen just saying you have grown up, and then Mom saying back to Reigen exactly what Reigen said to him when they first met about being a good person. Yeah.
Oh man, whenever someone says specialist, I can't disassociate with Hunter x Hunter. I hear you. Yeah.
Magnet like Jotaro.
And you have to pick up things you feel are important. Oh, yeah.
So here's the thing, though. If you have to pick up things that you feel are important,
I know what you're.
The question is then, boobs or ass? And do you also pick up those things that you feel are important? Because I feel like one might get in a little bit of trouble doing that.
We're off the rails.
Oh,
we're
we
off
are totally
the rails.
off the
We're
rails.
off the rails. I mean, please, like, no. Let's not. Let's not. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Mogami Keiji. Yes, Mogami Keiji.
Yeah.
I would say Mogami is a brilliant way that they brought up the terror of what could happen if someone didn't have the morals of Mob and the complex of Mob actually kind of holding them back from doing too much damage. And Mogami just became this, in some ways, all the stuff with the spirits and the people being so blended together was more foreshadowing for Mogami, so that when we see him being a possessor of others and being basically a being of pure spirit energy or what have you, psychic, whatever, I loved that. I do wish, now that I've heard about some of the things that they kind of went into in the manga, I wish they would have added more of that into the anime version, but I guess maybe they didn't have enough for 3 episodes, so they just went with 2 episodes and put in what they could, or just trying to keep it less dark. But oh my god, you derailed it so hard, Jacob. You derailed it so freaking hard.
Yeah, because Dimple possessed me to, make me say that. It's
oh
true.
My god.
Yeah. Yep.
What is going on? The heart. Oh my god. Oh man. Oh my god. Lariat, Daiki, good grief. Okay, to be fair, it's not that much time-wise that was not included. Gotcha.
Okay.
It's more probably a form of censoring to keep it less graphic. That makes sense.
You're telling me they didn't go through all the 6 months in excruciating detail in the manga? They didn't do that?
I mean, yeah. Oh, Razor Shark X, and never seen Mob Psycho. Now I'm tempted to watch it.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah.
You've been listening to all of this?
Yeah, Mob Psycho.
Yeah, so
check it out.
Amazing, so you should watch it. And
definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a few scenes of some brutal bullying and the cat being killed.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Oof. Okay. Yeah, definitely watch it.
Oh yeah.
Cheer Razor Shark on chat. Body improvement. Mob Psycho improvement. Watch Mob Psycho.
Yes, it's absolutely wonderful and fantastic.
Amazing. Okay, I think I figured this out. Dimple will be all plot holes, and Mob's curse will be all of Murphy's law.
Yeah, you could totally do that. Yeah.
Yes.
Although I thought the message was all plot holes.
Oh my god. I think we're gonna call it here. We've gone off the rails quite a bit, and we're just having a lot of fun and stuff.
We need to be kind of like, the best way to keep us on the rails is if they're like magnetic rails, you know?
Yeah.
Because that really does help.
Yeah.
It does help. It does help a lot.
Definitely does. Oh my gosh. SOS After Dark is best SOS. That is something I've wondered if Jacob and I should do, and we'll do like a let's play that will encourage that. And some kind of game that's, I would say, something that we've played before so that we can kind of mock
like school
it,
days,
have
or
fun. No, something that, you know, would just encourage just random inane conversations.
Wouldn't that just be the domestic girlfriend reactions, though?
Oh, like, probably.
I mean, let's be real here.
That is true. Guys, if you didn't know, Jacob's kind of ecstatic about it. But yeah, eventually...
Caleb actually had to have a talk with me before this podcast. He's like, okay, Jacob, here's the thing. You bring up domestic girlfriend every time. We're going to be talking about Mob Psycho this podcast. Like we're going to react to domestic girlfriend. So just keep it in your pants, please, for me.
Yeah. I think having it be a game though that we've already played, and having it be basically maybe an exchange of piloting. There's a game actually I was thinking that could be really good for that, although the game is very story-based, so we wouldn't want to talk too much over the dialogue. But maybe if we were mocking it, it would be kind of fun. But that's actually KOTOR 2.
Oh, yes. Yes, we would have so much fun with that. Telos Restoration Project and everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's one of our old favorite games in that it's got a whole bunch of things updated to it. I don't think many people would enjoy as much us actually playing it because it's an old game. It's an old single player game. Yeah. But we have all the Steam, bonus stuff, so we could play it with all the mods and things. And and Jacob and I have memed that show in our own kind of story discussions, just regular things to death. So that could be kind of fun.
Yep.
Oh, XV Ethan is even like, yeah, like KOTOR 2 would be great. Like,
and Diza 4, yes, I'm actually up through chapter 72. And it's amazing. Hey Jacob, how are you manufacturing the physical copies of your book? So Battle Lines. Basically, I'm gonna be bulk ordering some stuff. There's actually something that has come up that has pushed stuff back a little bit. I'm working on getting that squared away so that way I can give like I was hoping to give like a concrete time of like, release okay date, now it's been actually, that hiccup has been ironed out and I can give like a true release date. But yeah, basically I'm going to be bulk ordering a bunch of physical copies and then sending them to Amazon for fulfillment by Amazon because
play Lego Star Wars the whole saga. Josh O'Connor.
Oh
my gosh.
Man. Oh no.
It would just be tons of memeing. But no, that game's a completionist nightmare. Like, there's so much crap that you just end up kind of like, I gotta get the last thing so I can get True Jedi. Like, anyone that's played that game knows the struggle of being like 99% True Jedi on a level or a section, and you're just like, like the PewDiePie, like that. It's almost like a, but it's more like, that's me playing that game.
Deku, Caleb, I don't want to play a game where both can't play at the same time. KOTOR 2 is perfect. I smell hypocrisy.
Wait, when did I say I don't want to play a game where both can't play at the same time? I think that's a double negative.
No.
Doesn't sound like me.
I think you were talking about it from the standpoint of certain games that were like visual novels or like single player RPGs and stuff like that.
This was an off the cuff thought, and
Tales of Berseria, that's what you were talking about. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Tales of Berseria? I think what I heard was people were saying that, no, you can play it co-op. The co-op just is bad. Like, and I was saying, like, let's have a true co-op game, and then we can play Tales of Berseria and just have each other basically just take turns playing the thing or something like that.
Okay. I don't know if you guys have ever tried this, but where you it's like a writing exercise that's kind of fun, where basically you write a story and then you pass it to someone else, and you have a bunch of people doing this.
That's fun.
And then you like keep writing sentence by sentence, and it just gets
that's
crazy.
really fun.
That I almost feel like that sounds like if we were to do that with a game where it's like choices matter and all this stuff and blah 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 blah, and then it's like you go away and then you come back because like we alternate, and then you come back and it's like, wait, what did you do?
Yeah, playing that with about 6 people is like the perfect number, because then it just gets ridiculous and stuff.
Pop Nike, don't discourage them from playing KOTOR.
Wow. Ollie the Savage.
Well, that escalated quickly.
That escalated really quickly. As probably the biggest DMC fan in this chat, I don't know how I'd feel about the bros playing DMC. Is that Devil May Cry?
I think so.
I think so, yeah. That's the one that just got a game recently.
Yeah.
You know what's cooler? Mob Psycho mobile puzzle game that is not active anymore. What? Oh my gosh.
Sounds to me like you guys want a Sims like where you can craft your own narrative out of little AI bots doing their own thing. I mean, potentially. But then that, like, if we really want to do something like that, wouldn't we just play Minecraft and then just like destroy each other's, bases and things like that?
Oh, you guys ever gonna do another Quiplash stream? That was nutty. It
is fun.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
You're like, I don't know.
We'll see. Make Jacob play The Witcher.
I mean, I listen to Fields of Ardskellige regularly on repeat. So
I think we're gonna end the stream here. We're off the cuff now. Proceeds to suddenly talk about games for another while. Okay, yeah, you're right, Leary.
That's a good point.
I've got things I need to prep and stuff like that. But y'all, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been a lot of fun. Berserk tomorrow, 3 p.m.
Because all our streams are 3 p.m. now.
Yep. Yeah,
Leary knows what's up. You could play Rocket League.
You're like, damn it, Leary. No,
Halo
why'd you
PC.
do that?
Whoa, that would be
no way.
Insane. Oh.
All right, and then Thursday for Divinity Original Sin 2. I love how you laugh because what? Never mind, you didn't see it. Okay, never mind.
Oh yeah, no, you see, I don't react to it because it just happens all the time.
In case y'all forgot, like, this is our mouse pad
exactly.
now.
So Caleb regularly
every once in a while, I'm just like specifically like, oh yeah, let me grab that.
Sometimes we'll do that when there's like a rough episode and it's like, come for me, Joseph. But yeah,
just like, it's the best thing. But yeah, Friday for Witcher 3, back again for the podcast next week.
Indeed.
Yeah, one of the things I was actually going to ask you guys here really quick, because I know a lot of you aren't there for the gaming things and stuff like that, if you would be up for me doing more or less kind of random streams on Wednesday, just as it's kind of a time where we're not actually streaming, but there's something that is coming out that I kind of would enjoy at least spending a bunch of time playing. But then if I'm playing it, then I might as well stream it, right? Or maybe I shouldn't.
I'm talking about Hearthstone.
I'm talking about the latest Hearthstone expansion.
Ah.
Yeah. I have been playing it a little bit more recently, and then that would just encourage more just hanging out, Q&A and stuff like that.
We could even have me be sitting there too and giving you really bad advice.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Trying to give good advice, but having it absolutely be terrible.
Yeah. I mean, you have played before, technically.
Yes, a few years ago.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
4-ish,
something
like that.
Yeah.
But, okay. Yeah. All right, guys. Have you, see you guys next one. But yeah, we don't know how to do outros. So, yeah.
Is it Thursday yet?
Is it Monday yet?
Yeah.
We're gonna have specific things there. Missed a question. No, Razor. What was your question? I
talked about the book production.
Really excited
thing.
to read your book.
When are you? Oh, okay, gotcha. No, digital does not get you access to it earlier because I would not be so cruel as to all the people that are getting the hardbacks.
Okay, so it's all going to be at the same time.
It's all going to be at the same time.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Battle lines, cool stuff. See you guys all later, and
farewell.
Farewell.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so I made it to the very end without talking about domestic girlfriends.
Until the end,
end. I put it off a while.
Yeah,
you know.
I think as far as things go, it's something that gets me even more excited to actually react to it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if it's something that, you know, puts this much pressure on you,
Man,
it has to
like,
be extra spicy.
I have been reading the manga, and I cannot even begin to tell you how right that is. Like, there are so many things I want to talk about, but the thing is, I can't